hello. Sorry, a little off start there. Hi, I'm Dan Lutz. Welcome to the broadcast. This is another one of our broadcasts that we've been doing here. Probably around 50 days, so you should go back and count, so kind of see exactly where we are. Today is for me Saturday, April 20th. Day is rolling by. I want to. This is been very busy. A lot of things happening. We had another different groups from Hawaii in another meeting after the broadcast, a couple hours after the broadcast yesterday. I did not upload that yet, but I will do so. Also, I do have one volunteer for helping out with the editing part, but meaning taking these 3-hour shows that we're doing and breaking them down into smaller bits. I kind of give an example of what the time code, just writing out time code, this segment. If I have that, it makes it easy. I don't have to watch the video to see where to do the cuts. Right, and then I can pull them out into segments. Won't take me too long to break it down. Then otherwise, it could take me 4 or 5 hours to edit one of those videos because I'd have to listen, break down, pull out segments. Might take even longer because it takes time to render off segments each time. So it take a whole day. If I have a time code, so I can go from, I can do a little bit of work, come back to when one is done, and pull out another one. So anyway, that does help. Actually, I could probably show you what that looks like. I have that listed here. Let me see. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I'll pull that up so you can take a look and see what I'm talking about. Any of you can do this out there. So it's these kind of things will assist in getting these things done. One moment. There we go. This is Tony Hollis is the one. So I made this example of a time code. So while this program is going on, you'd start, like say, example, hour, minute, seconds. We can leave off the seconds, but I put them there as the example. So this is a normal time code segment. So starting monologue, which I'm doing right now. So start at 000 and go until I'm done talking. So maybe I'm done at 20 minutes into the broadcast in 12 seconds, end the monologue. All right, then update with the Manna World Holding Trust tank, right? End update, right? And then the conversation about the GCR, whatever, end. So back and forth that way. So that if I had a list like that, that would help. So if there's a certain segment that someone finds would be very important for people to hear for any reason, you could just say, hey, from this time code to this time code on this video, it'd be really good if I had that to explain something to someone. I could pull it out for someone and stick it up there. Anyway, that's just an idea to help get the word out, right? All this, because a lot of people don't have time for a 3-hour video, right? Our attention span is down to 6 minutes. So if we break it down to 6-minute chunks, that works. But 2-minute chunks are also good for getting across a specific point. So I got a 13-minute chunk that Tank did, right? So I put that video out there to help people understand what happens in the GCR if it was to go forward as they planned. How it ends in 90% of the population being killed off, right, in this plan that was outlined in the Iron Mountain report. So these are just some of the things that you can do to assist. Now, one of the other things is please share this video. Please give likes. Let me see where we are on our likes today. 1 second here. We're at 137 watching right now with 39 likes. Don't forget to give the thumbs up liking. You're at 39, so let's see if we can bump that up. We got 137 watching. I think yesterday we had close to 300 people that got on during the broadcast. So Spreading the link is highly, highly, highly important. So please share this video, get the information out. Now, I just retitled this one, Breaking News, Thomas Williams joins the broadcast to talk about the funding. Now, I am not certain if Thomas will make it on. He may make it on. And so if it happens, that's great. Hopefully we could actually have a conversation. The last time Thomas was on, he could not hear anything I said, probably the clowns playing games. So very interesting how this information is flowing. On another note, I've had so I was talking about Hawaii and our conversations yesterday. So again, getting out the information. The two that I showed with the Hawaiian have Hawaiian islands on the videos. This one's part 1 and part 2. Part 1 that I put out there is really about me explaining about the Manna World Holding Trust, what's happened, how I came into it, and something along those lines. And the second video is really about, hey, here's how a project starts. This is a project about the land deed patents that they have from the Old Kingdom that are valid. The tax overlay system of the Hawaiian state is this foreign body that basically just came in and said, okay, we're assuming control. And there's really nothing no one could do with it. But, having Gandhi power, in peaceful protests, just say, hey, we're not listening to you anymore. You came in and sat yourself on top of our kingdom, right? I suggested moving the state into an embassy there and probably on a boat. That's on the video I did yesterday because they like maritime law, right? So put them out on the boat, on the water, and then it's where the maritime law can be out there in the Hawaiian state incorporated entity. And it is an incorporated entity. Anyway, we have conversations going on, a lot of different people coming to the table. Listen, in regards to all the different Hawaiian groups out there, all your stories are wonderful, and you guys all have to come together. I know you've signed the Constitution, and all that's really also good, but you still got to just all work together, not worry about who's on top. Let that come out, later. Focus on being together, right? And then moving to that next step. I just also had a conversation with my friend Calais. Hello, Calais. She's probably not watching. She's very busy at the moment, but she's been very active with the nation of Hawaii. They're moving forward on the setting up of their central bank. And it's far along. It's not something that is maybe going to happen. They're talking. No, this is already that they're in place. I'm not talking. I won't get into any of the details. She told me I don't want to put that out there. Other than this is something that definitely will give them structure. Also, that the Aloha coin is moving forward, and that it may be gold backed. So these are things that she just told me. Now I know they were talking about gold backing back then, but they've had a strong connection with the royalty of Japan. The Emperor of Japan and sent emissaries to talk with them. Sent them a gift of the three-legged crow, which is basically a representation for them of their heritage. And this is a lot of these things are happening, and so they're all coming together right now. Having these people that are showing up from different angles, again, with their different stories. All of this is very why we need projects, and so people can handle all these little pieces on their own. We have a million projects out there. We're not. There's no collapse of a world. We have everybody empowered. We have everybody mobilized. Everybody moving. All of the war and garbage that's been happening over the last years and years of this going on just drifts away. Trump's out there shutting down all the wars. Yeah, it looks like he's on the side of the deep state, but then he turns around and he was actually destroying the deep state assets. So we've got a champion there, and we've got all this momentum. We're just going to go with it. This is the time for you to take action. Share the link. I know you shared it before. Share it again. Stick it in your emails that you're sending out to people. You don't have to do a blasting, but just your normal emails. Just copy and paste that in there. Hey, take a look at this. Some simple things like that. When you post it, do the share on the video, and you take it to your Facebook page, for example, just go in your own comment and say, please share this. Copy this link and share it on yours. The copy and paste is actually different than the share button. They do the same thing, except when you do the share button, it kind of quantifies and puts it into a channel that the shadow banning can actually grab hold of and not allow it to go past a certain level. They'll taper it back to a certain amount. And I was watching Alex Jones, which I don't watch anymore because I figure he's controlled opposition at this point. He was talking about, they had me at 50% shadow ban. I mean, it's half of the people that would have seen his stuff before don't get to see it. Then they moved it to 80% and 90%, and then they got up to 99% shadow ban, and then they completely banned him 100%. So this is the system of the world that they're putting out there to show people that this is, hey, you better behave. If we mention certain topics, it removes funding, so it's another source of it. By the way, on my YouTube channel, the monetized channel, my monetization, all the videos that I'm doing, it hasn't changed in 2 weeks. The amount, in fact, it dropped $20, right, and then went back up $20. This is fraudulent. Actually, it's a breach of contract. It really is. There should be, a major lawsuit where you do, a lawsuit against all of the people that they're affecting in this. Even the users, are affected. You don't get to see things that you wanted. That is the social contract that we have with YouTube, right? So anyway, this is something that it will be fixed over time. So anyway, we just march forward, and we'll see where we're going to go with this. So now I did speak with Tank just before getting online. So Tank is going to join in the next, within the next 15 minutes. He'll be on, and we'll get sort of an update unless he's going to wait for Thomas to come on. Again, I don't know for sure if Thomas will be here. If they've broken through, Thomas will be here. Yes, on that note, I saw the wind just came by and slammed my patio door there. So, and my wife just brought me some iced tea. One moment, please. A bit thirsty. This is the summertime for me. Berry tea. A lot of times I'm drinking out of looks like a beer mug, and they say, "Oh, what kind of beer are you drinking?" No, I'm drinking tea, iced tea. I drink iced tea all day long. Flavored teas or black tea, green tea, all the teas. I love tea. So I actually used to drink coffee. Loved coffee. Still love coffee. I don't drink coffee. Why don't I drink coffee? That actually goes back to another story where actually I died. It goes back to when I was about 17 years old. I was a roadie in a band. We had set up for the band. They started playing. I fell off the stage, hit my head. I was taken to the van, and the next thing I know, I'm floating above my body, looking down as though the van is not even there, right? But it's there. And I'm seeing my friends freaking out. And they're saying, he's dead, he's not breathing. And while they're all having that commotion, I remember I made this motion. I turned upwards. And as I turned and looked to look upwards, I saw my life pass before my eyes. Right? I even remember slowing down and focusing in on some certain events. I also know that there was events that hadn't happened yet. I recall that. And looking all the way up and going through the tunnel of light, I had an arm reach out and a silhouette, and my impression is of Jesus, and that there was then the voice, and the voice said, "Are you ready to come now?" I said, "No, I've got too much to do." And I went back the same direction, opposite, right? Back down that way, landed right in my body, woke up, boom, like I said, and everyone freaked out. We thought you were dead. I said, well, I was. And I described my story. So the reason now, how does that tie into coffee, right? So that's how I'm a kid, right? So about 5 years ago, I was at my friend's house. We had a conclave got together, right? I don't know what else it's called, grouping with certain group members of our Entente indigenous group. We came together while I'm in Utah, staying at Ralph's house. Ralph was the one who was formerly in the CIA and ended up dead. That's another story. But house was full. I mean, it was like a 6-bedroom house or something like that, many bedrooms. But all the bathrooms were occupied. I had to go. I asked, can I use your bathroom, in his master bedroom? And so him and his wife and his daughter were all there hanging out, talking. And they said, yeah, go ahead, go in. So I bypassed them, went into the room, and they had one of those little closet toilet rooms, right? So it's just big enough for the toilet to fit in there, and you go in there. So I went in there, shut the door, and had a seat. And then I hear this voice. It says, "Don't drink coffee." I'm looking, don't drink coffee. And then it struck me. That was a voice I heard when I died. And it said, "Are you ready to come now?" That was the voice. Don't drink coffee. So now I'm in a Mormon home, right? And my friend, Mormon, was, doesn't drink coffee, right? And, he always said, I'd always leave the house to go get my morning coffee. I go down to the gas station, wasn't too far away. Took me, 3 minutes to get there. Got a nice big giant coffee. Came back. And I drink my coffee, but I wouldn't. He said, "You could bring coffee and make coffee here in the morning." It's okay. I said, "No, I don't want to do that." So, the Mormons kind of considered me Mormon. Said, "You're close to being Mormon anyway. You just have to go." Because I don't really swear. I don't really drink. I drink occasionally. I have no problem drinking, but I just don't drink much. But anyway, they were always joking with me. "You're almost Mormon. You might as well go ahead." I go with them to church. I love the Mormon church. I love their family unity and a lot of really good things there. So anyway, so I wasn't, this whole thing about not drinking coffee. I dug into that. What does that mean, right? What does it mean not to? Why do they not drink coffee? And I asked many of the Mormons. No one really gave me a really good answer. Ralph gave me a perfect answer, and he said, "People miss the point. It's in the words of wisdom." It says in the very first page, it says, "In the end times, there are conspiring men. And because of those conspiring men, don't do these things. In the end times, don't do these things. Because of the evil guys that are doing something." Right? So when I had, so anyway, okay, I hear the voice, right? And I come out and I go to Ralph and his wife, and so they're still all there on the bed. They're all chatting away. And I said, "Are you playing a game with me? I just heard a voice tell me not to drink coffee." And they said, "No, no, no." And I said, "I think I felt like it was God giving me a message," right? And he says, "Oh yeah, my wife hears him in there all the time." So I literally stopped drinking coffee right then and there. I had no cravings for coffee. I just stopped. Didn't drink coffee again. But 1 year later, to the day, the story continues. I'm in Hong Kong. A friend of mine has to get his visa to go into China. So we're at the Chinese administration building. Right next to it is kind of another office building with like a mall section with a bunch of restaurants on that level. And so while he's going in, I can't go in with him for his visa application and everything, but while he's going inside, I said, well, I'll just get something to eat. So I wander around and I walk around the whole perimeter of the building. And again, this is like on the second level. It's kind of an outside area that you can walk around and it's like a many-story building, but at this level, there's these restaurants all the way around, and there's a walkway going around. So, I walked all the way around, and on the other side of the building, there was a steakhouse. So yeah, I want steak. So I looked at the menu. I was saying, okay, this looks like a really good steak restaurant. And I walked way back around to the front, almost where I started. And there's the escalator that I know when my friend comes out, he's going to come up that escalator. So I want to be positioned where it's easy for us to find each other. I literally can watch the escalator from the restaurant on the other side, which is also a steakhouse. But anyway, I preferred the menu on the other side and a particular, cut of meat that I wanted, which is an end cut, large, thick. And so on the other side, they didn't have that menu. And I ended up talking with the waiter there, and he was saying, "Hey, don't worry, we share the same kitchen, same owner. You can sit here, and I'll serve you from the menu on that side." I thought, well, that's perfect, right? Everything I wanted all at one time. Right? So I placed my order and got the order from the other menu. I ordered from that other menu and everything. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and he brings me the steak. And I was kind of like looking through some of my messages, so I wasn't paying too much attention, But anyway, I said my prayer over the food, and then I then took a bite. And I'm eating, and I was going, this doesn't seem to be the same cut that I ordered. So I brought the waiter over, and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. They made a mistake. They didn't give you the right one." I said, "Oh, not a problem. It's okay. I'll just eat this. Don't worry about it. This is fine." So, I finished my meal, right? And I'm still waiting for my friend to come by. And the waiter brings over a dessert, and he says, "I feel so bad about getting you the wrong order. This is on the house. Here, this is for you." I said, "Thank you. Wonderful. Nice dessert." So again, I took a bite, and I go, oh wow, this is really good. What is this? It's coffee. I said, "Oh, this is tiramisu." And then I remembered it was November 5th, and I'm 1 year to the day, November 5th, and when that event happened. November 5th actually has some other interesting importance for me, but November 5th, that was the date, and I go, 1 year later to the day, I stopped drinking coffee. I haven't had any coffee, not a dessert, not a candy, not even the mocha, anything. And then I have this, and I go, and I ate it down and was just like, this is kind of like, okay, you can have coffee now. I literally, I just stopped having coffee. And is that, to show faith? Is that, what? I mean, I heard from God. He said, don't drink coffee. I didn't drink. I stopped. 1 year to date. I didn't order it. It gets delivered to me. Right. And out of appreciation of this situation and understand the perfect moment, I enjoyed every bite of that tiramisu. So anyway, that's the story. Now I have had coffee one more time after that, and it was a similar moment. I was describing to someone here in the Philippines, high up in the Sagada Mountains. It's like 8,000 foot level, and it's very cold up there in the Philippines. It actually will have snow there, and interesting people up there. They were kind of segregated from the rest of Hawaii. Sorry, the Philippines, and the whole. Even when the Spanish were here, they were so far remote. It was hard to get there, up in the mountains, way up in the mountains. But now that they still have their own sovereignty, that group, and they were actually responsible for a lot of the marijuana supply into the country, and even though they're sovereign and it's theirs, Duterte's army went in and they wiped out the whole thing. We weren't supposed to touch it, but it's happened anyway. They were very upset about that. Anyway, well, I was up there in that region. There was a group that I was starting to work with, and they had some of the were training, and I was giving kind of a lesson about. There's this old fable about the master and the student, and the way it goes is that the master and student were walking home. They there was a shortcut through the marketplace, through the butcher shops, and they're vegetarian, and they were heading home, and they said, well, we're just going to take this shorter route. And the student will say, well, we don't want to go through there. That's the butcher shop. They're killing animals, and we don't want to go through there. No, it's okay. We can go through there. The master said, we're going to go this way. He goes through and they get to the butcher shop, and there's this scene going on where the woman is ordering from the butcher, and she says, I want absolutely the best cut of meat that you have. I want only the best. And the butcher says, Madam, all of my cuts are the best. And so the master said, okay. He ordered some meat. The student says, what are you doing? Well, didn't you hear? He said, all of his cuts are the best. And at that moment, the student was enlightened. That's the story of that, right? So I told that story, and the guy knew my story about coffee, right, that I just told you. And he says, I'm going to make you the perfect cup of coffee with the mountain beans and everything they have from there. And I said, fine. From the spirit of that, what he was trying to express was creating the perfect cup. And it was a very good cup. But again, since then, I've not really had any more. I've had a couple of times where, again, the coffee flavoring came into like ice cream in a dish that that came to me, and I ate it. It's no problem. I have no problem with coffee. And as I said, I love coffee. But it was just the path that I was on led me to basically not have coffee. And if there was coffee, served at some major event and everything, out of politeness, I would have the coffee and I would enjoy it. It would be just perfectly fine. Okay. I think that's good for that story. So anyway, we're still waiting for Tank. So it's half an hour in. So let's see. Maybe there might be something going on. Anyway, he said within the 15 minutes to half an hour, he'd be on. So, well, let me just talk about a few more things. So, let's see. There's a couple things. So, with this, these events happening in Hawaii, right, and other island nations. My friend who has discovered her roots of being of Hawaiian blood, and how I ended up spending, or she actually invited me to come back to Hawaii now to help them with where they're at, and that's probably going to be on one of the things that I'll probably have to I'll go to Fiji first, stop off in Hawaii, and then make my way over to see how things are going on with Tank after that, or somehow we'll figure this out, because there is something that is all happening. We're all moving in this direction, and I've been kind of on a different path, but we're all meeting in the same place. Really showing up at this time, especially with the funding coming through here, through the meaning the Manna World Holding Trust, and this current path of being able to bypass things. And I can't wait to hear what Tank has to say. I did speak with him. He did tell me some things. I'm just not going to repeat them. I'm going to let him bring that out, or maybe he's going to let Thomas talk about it. So we'll see how those things are going. But of all the groups that are different people in play coming in, there's so many in that are having their individual efforts to express sovereignty in Hawaii. The most important thing is to come together. That is what is the most important. The rest of the details of who did what, when, how, and who was doing this and who is doing that, really it's about being one. It's about us all being one. But for these geographic locations and your neighbors and your extended neighborhood, there is something to being part of the land and that area where you're born to. So this is important for those people to come together. So this is happening. These different paths. There's all these sovereignty groups, all with the same goal. Don't be separate. Just act as one. Don't see any division. Because that's the point of how we've been enslaved, is by dividing. As soon as you want to take a stand against holding up your end against others, you're divisive. Look for the way that whatever your piece is, how it works and comes together. That's where the focus has to be. It's the same place everywhere. Here in the Philippines, here in Fiji, and all of the islands, and the States, and in South America, and in Europe, and in Asia altogether. It's all about recognizing, where we're all in agreement and not where we differ. Let's just not focus on any of the differences. So, we're just struggling. Why don't I go into some of the chats here, and we'll see, and we'll wait for Tank to come on and see what's going to come up. So let me pull this up. There we go. Okay, we're at 238 watching and 86 likes. All right, and let's see where the chat is. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here a bit. Time to refresh. Yeah, let me get to the top of this line here. Got an active chat going on. So, oh, Nate, you're there. Zoom in, make it larger for people to be able to see. When I do that, I lose the top. I'll see. Keep it here for the moment. Okay. All right. So we got a lot of the greetings, a lot of the hellos. I say coffee is only good if it's totally organic in small amounts. I like organic coffee. I do. I like large amounts. You probably saw me with my tea mug. That's my normal coffee mug. And I'd have that, 2 or 3 times in a day. So I love. So coffee is biblical. Check the book of Hebrews. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, very funny. All right, hello, everyone. Wishing everyone a great eve. All right, hello. Nate, blessings to you all and everyone. All right. Hebrews coffee. Yes, I used to brew coffee. I liked espresso. I like Turkish coffee. Ethiopian coffee. Oh, that stuff was thick too. Yeah, that was good stuff. Let's see. Traveling down the line here. Everyone's talking about coffee. I must have been starting something here with the coffee talk here. Did I take a storytelling class? Yeah, it's called Life. No, I didn't take a storytelling class. Anyway, but yeah, that's a 3-parter, right? 3-part story. See that on the guy taking the time codes, Tommy, taking the time code. Oh, looks like Tank is joined in. Let me just finish this. So this would be like beginning of this story, end of this story, beginning of this part of the story, end of that part of the story. Or you could say from the beginning of the story to the end of all 3 of those stories. That's where you could lay the time code. So. All right, Tank. I'm just going through here and seeing where if we have any questions already.
You doing Q&A? You doing Q&A right now?
Well, I just, I did a couple of stories, and I said, well, you weren't on yet, so let me go and see what's in the chat room. So, okay. So far, it's just morally hellos and general pleasantries back and forth.
All right. No now, I can send Thomas this link that you sent me, right?
Is that, say one more time?
I sent Thomas the same link that you sent me, right?
Okay, yep, same one. Hopefully, I'll be able to talk to him this time.
We'll see what happens. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
You know what? If that happens, I can jump off because I know you did want to talk to me.
No, there's no reason that it shouldn't work unless someone's stopping it.
Hey, Dan, send this to my WhatsApp as well because I can't seem to copy it from my Telegram.
Oh, I didn't send it there already? Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, I was about to.
What?
There we go. So, let's see. Question: will project funds be drawn down to a local bank level, i.e. our countries or project destination, or be a paymaster from a U.S.-based trust from the allocated trustees, if drawn down? Okay. What do you think? It's their local bank?
Will it be, what does that mean? Like,
I think he's just asking, will the bank...
Both things would be true. Like, it could be drawn down to a local trustee at a local bank. Like,
yeah. Okay. I think he's just asking if it's just all U.S.-based sent money, or is it going to go to their local banks around the world?
I got you.
I think that's what he's asking, yeah.
Well, it's going to go down to, I mean, it's going to be brought down to different banks all over the place. So, I mean, it all depends. I just, as of right now, we'll see what the Pentagon was able to accomplish today, and hopefully Thomas has an update on that. I'm hoping. And
yeah, I see that someone said Thomas needs the link.
Yep, I just sent it to him.
All right.
So, and I'll email it to him too.
And we're at 253 watching, and good number of people there. All right. So, did you want to give any other update? I'm through going through the.
Yeah. So, the update that I have so far is the Pentagon is performing like a boss. They are working for us for very much the first time that I'm aware of where they've been consistent, because what usually happens is they they start out on a lot of groups over time have said in one breath that they're supporting us, and then in the they get us into we agree, we do our part, and they bail, and they mess it up. So that as usually what happens. So the Pentagon right now is performing, and that's great. And the right now today, the U.S. Treasury, or not, the Department of the Treasury, no, excuse me, I misspoke. The banks and the Pentagon were going back and forth, and what would happen is the Pentagon system worked perfectly. They were able to bring all the transfers in that Kim built for them, and they were able to bring the money directly into the banks. And then what they're doing at the bank level is they were creating new accounts. So they were basically like taking our account numbers and they were adding a number to them, right, to misdirect the money, put it somewhere else, right? And it's been a battle all day. And last I heard from Kim is like, it is a battle, and the Pentagon is for us. And to me personally, knowing the latent abilities in that group, the potential, the strength, the honor, and the integrity, and not only that, but what I will keep bringing up and keep talking about is what is the story behind the story is that these very strong, for the most part, honorable and kind, people who wanted to do something for their country have been deceived, right? They've been deceived and taken down a path where they were forced to do horrible things. So I'm certain I'm hoping that they maintain that course to make it right. So that's what I'm watching to see. And but that's the last report I had. So I don't know, if there's been a change in status or if they're successful. When Thomas comes on, hopefully he'll have it.
Thomas is on.
Good evening, Thomas. How are you, sir?
Oh, we got live video too.
Nice. That's
nice.
Good.
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you. Can you hear me is the question.
Yes, I can.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, great. Big progress from last show. That's nice.
Yes.
What's up, Thomas?
Must be the military making sure that it can happen.
Well, they messaged me. They unplugged my internet this afternoon, so I wasn't too sure whether I was coming on. I was on a call this afternoon, and they just pulled the plug on me. So it's the way things go.
It's clowns in America, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Clowns and Blackwater goons. We get the lot, MS-13.
I know. MS-13.
When I hear MS-13, I just really don't think of them in the technical sphere of things. But maybe I just don't know much. Because usually, they show on TV the pictures of them. They're always wearing without shirts and tattooed. They don't look like they're going to be hanging out in the internet cafe.
Yeah, they are nonetheless, right? They're in the banks. That's the issue.
Yeah, they're in Wells the Fargo, as I call them, in California. It beggars belief that you can have criminal gangs, but then it doesn't beg a belief because banks are criminal gangs.
Criminal gang. I was going to say that. I'm like, the banks are their own criminal cartel. They're like the most defiant organized crime group out there.
They've earned the name banksters.
Banksters, yeah.
With a W, yeah.
So,
So,
Thomas, man, it's been a lot of stuff going on, man. What's
yeah, I'm pleased to report the Pentagon and the military are still pushing. There's sheer bedlam out there now. The Pentagon have pushed against the big banks with not much progress today, and they pushed against some of the small banks with some progress. Now, what's going on is is utter bedlam, because obviously the Pentagon are not happy with the Treasury and not happy with the banks, and it'll be interesting to see. It's kind of a pity it's Friday. Of course, the banks don't open until Monday now, so whether they'll do something over the weekend to facilitate more severe action, shall we say. I think somewhere along the line, we're going to need enforcement. Someone is going to have to enforce something, to kick everything off.
Kim was telling me, Thomas, that basically she had brought transfers successfully, 100% successfully directly into the bank, and she still was not sure how to bypass the individual who has to say it's okay to be there, right?
Yeah.
And what I told her is that what would definitely bypass that is 50 Marines and a few tanks at the door of the bank. I guarantee you they will function right. I actually, Thomas, talk to me about that. Like, what is the problem? Like, I don't get it. Like, why is it we get right there and it's like, wait, we're here? There gets to be a point where, not that we don't want to incite violence, but it's beyond ridiculous. You don't have a single leader willing to stand up to be like, this has got to stop.
Yeah, well, eventually, I know people don't like how long is it going to take? Well, this whole system was a minefield, and of course they don't stop either. We haven't stopped, and neither do they. So as fast as they're putting stuff up, we're taking it down. As fast as we're trying to change the system, they're trying to meddle in it, and it's this is kind of what's gone on for the last 6 months, really. But over time, when they've introduced new systems, we've learned from it, and we counteract it, and then we change it. Step by step, the fact that it went all the way through, we've been close to it going through a few times, as you know, and this one went all the way through. So that's an improvement on previous transfers. And, I kind of suspected that the Treasury was more involved than we were led to believe. And that turned out to be the case, and of course, as Kim's going through all the back doors and we're clearing out the clearance aspects of the banking, and then we found mirror servers. So it came out of the trust into the banks, into the server, which is then duplicated with another server and then being kicked back. So we eliminated them, and then there was issues. There was two other machines one inside the bank and one outside the bank that was kicking stuff out also. So this has been a process of trial and error and eliminating all the ways that they can interfere, and eventually they'll run out of options. There's no question of that. And yes, it takes time, and it's not what people want to hear. But eventually, it'd be nice if the Pentagon or the military or both pushes everything through, and we can get going. If not, one day, Kim and I spend a lot of time kind of tweaking the system as such to make the flow better, to avoid contact with human altogether. And given the last lot went all the way through, we're not that far from making a few more tweaks, and that will eliminate all their backdoors, all their clearance accounts, all the 300,000 hooks that went into the banks, and the interference from the central banks and the interference from the Treasury, be it the Treasury themselves, Mr. Mnuchin, or FinCEN, which I heard you mention earlier. You know, they've been shut down permanently. You know,
Good.
This is supposed to be an anti-corruption, anti-terrorist, anti-money laundering group, and here they are inside the Treasury.
Isn't that group where Hillary Clinton hid all of her money?
They were like Clinton's personal bank.
Oh my God, it drives me crazy. You know, it's like the Thomas's show, for anybody who doesn't know, is Truth, Honor, and Integrity. I'm like, I feel like you grab the three elements that are missing from every aspect of our government. Like, it drives me crazy. It's like there's not even anybody that's even fit. You know, they all when everything happened with the GCR, and they decided, okay, look, we're gonna give you 2 more weeks to try to implement your massive system to depopulate the earth. Like, what? How would that ever even come up? That they were like, yeah, that's what has to happen. Like, do they just not know, Thomas? I mean, like,
well, to be quite honest, I think somewhere along the line, and she won't like me for this, I suggested it in the past, but I can't support it because between us, we worked out the control system. Now, the key is there's only Kim and I who know the system. You know, others have had the bits of it explained. And somewhere along the line, we're going to have to go global, either Kim on her own or with me with her, and explain, preferably in the UN or some other meeting, what has gone on here. What is the control system? You all thought you were all the leaders and the top of the pile. Well, actually, you were the cannon fodder in the bottom 30%. All of you, you know. And somehow that information has to be broadcast on a global scale. It won't appease all of them, but it will get something. And hang on, I knew something wasn't right. You know, it's hard to grasp for the general alt media that all the people that everyone's been researching and all the big names and the Rothschilds and the Club of Rome and the UN and the Bilderbergers, they're all in the bottom. Those people are in the bottom 20% because the 301 families controlled them, and they're between 25 and 30% from the bottom. And then you've got 9 pyramids, and then you've got another structure, and then another structure that protected the wheel within the wheel within the wheel. Now, most people, even whether you're presidents, prime ministers, or the head of the banking, central bank, whatever, do not know about the wheel within the wheel within the wheel. They don't know. And so the likes of the Pentagon, who's basically them and others who have been treating the Rothschilds as gods, literally. I've had quite a shock, you know, where they've been told they've been lying to them, and they're not important either. It's just an illusion, you know. We played the song. I played the song because it was Kim picked it. Who made who?
Yeah.
In the Intelli of the week, because all these people, these Bilderbergs and Rothschilds and Warburgs and all these Ferdinand Marcos and all them people, the trust made them.
Yep, that's right.
None of them had anything.
Yep.
Particularly the Rothschilds. Trust made them, and trust can break them, and will do.
You know, Thomas, I heard you say that the Rothschilds have been stepping down. That is a little just off comment you were making about them stepping down And I actually checked in with my friend and partner in England. He's a banker in England, and he said, "Yeah, that they're stepping down." The way he phrased it is that well, they're from the old banking, classical banking, and it's not done that way anymore, and that the younger generation also is just not interested.
No, the Rothschilds have, in all intents and purposes, have stepped down from the front end. They're going to, obviously, they're not going to walk away from their banks, but if they carry on, and if it goes on any longer for them, they're not going to have any banks. It's that simple. We can play the long game. They can't. I know we all want the funds out quicker, but we can play the long game because we have the funds. They don't. It's dwindling. It costs an awful lot of money to run that system, that the Rothschilds seem to think that they own everything. They own DC, except they've all got liens on it. It's all owned by the trust. And Kim, in essence, can turn around to the Rothschilds and go, we want our money back. Because they owe the trust, I think the last count was 2.2 quadrillion. That's about.
I think they only have 700 trillion, right?
It's about 28 years global GDP. Global, Jeez. Not country. Global, what the Rothschilds owe. So they can't pay back. So the assets become the trust. They're all pledged anyway.
So, Thomas, right now, okay, because, look, I mean, in my opinion, not in my opinion, it's just a fact. The only time anything has ever changed is in the moment that we're in, right? And this is the only time that really matters. Now, I'm thrilled. The Pentagon is working, right now with us, and
it will push things along.
Yeah, because that has always been something that Kim has wanted, right? And when she sold back Wells Fargo back to the U.S. government as a failed asset for $1, and did the same with Citibank to Russia for $1, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I really expected Wells Fargo to be, I expected to see the military show up and take control, because that's what Kim always described to me. Now, that would be the ideal way to do it, right? Because right now, you have a situation where you could really change everything as long as the military does their part, and as long as they go in and I mean, like right now, like they're trying to get things changed. If they would just, right now, like I'm actually curious, what could possibly stop the U.S. military? Wouldn't it be because Kim set up the same system, or a unique system for the Pentagon, correct? And that system, the way it works, is that she was able to use it successfully, right? And if she was able to use it successfully, then it would seem to me like that if they reject those transfers coming in for projects that are sponsored by the military, then essentially it's an act of war, isn't it? Because they're rejecting the Pentagon.
Pretty much. It was pretty much an act of war. What the Treasury told the Pentagon to go and basically they told them to go and F themselves yesterday. The Treasury. And this is the same. Essentially, what happened in November. We priced out and costed out everything. 105 billion for the disaster relief fund. It was all there, all priced out. It was all vetted by Trump, including the analyst who checked that all the figures were correct. And Trump issued the order to give the cards to the ambassador. And then he gets it to Kim, and Kim loads the however many cards there was. Best not saying. to a total of 105 billion. These are like special cards. And in came Citadel and the Vice Company, which is like a spin-off of Citadel. Citadel run the NYPD. So that's why you never get anything done in New York. And Citadel is ran by Anne, as I call her, Hillary. They go into the Treasury, and the Treasury turns around and says, our guy is okay to be here. And Trump gave approval, and they said, we don't care what Mr. Trump has to say, and marched him out in the Treasury building.
How is that possible with the presidential order? That's the question.
Well, this is a kind of what I've been saying for a number of years now. The reality is, and this is what people in the government have to understand also, they may not like what we have to say either. The government's irrelevant. This is, people call it the deep state and this, that, and the other. You look at the security levels, Trump's 26 levels above cosmic, below, sorry. So there's 26 groups of people who have higher security clearance than the president of the United States. So that's all the information that's classed from 24 through 49. Trump can't access it. Because he, as they always say, he doesn't have the need to know. And this is how ridiculous it is. We haven't got a government. We've got puppets in there, including the president. I know he's done some certain things, but in essence, he's still a puppet. Because he's got goons around him who are telling him, you're going into Venezuela when he should know better, not what's going on there. You're going into Syria, and 1 minute he's pulling the troops out, next minute he's going back in. But, it's not Trump that's saying this. It's the goons in the background. Now, the issue, the government has no powers whatsoever. Now, the issue we may come across is the military, by definition, is not allowed to interact on our soil. Now, the Pentagon,
they're not allowed to interact on our soil?
No.
Not even when there's foreign. How can they protect us against foreign or domestic terrorists?
They're not there to. So the Pentagon.
They just
who are the people that actually do stuff?
The National Guard, the Pentagon would have to call in the National Guard to enforce, as I understand it, unless they do an emergency measure.
But if there's terrorists, aren't they able to go in and go after terrorists? Or if there was an encampment in like the middle of Los Angeles, wouldn't the military able to go in?
As I understand it, no.
I know that we had this scene in Los Angeles where these helicopters went down in like downtown LA, landed.
Yeah.
People in biohazard suits, went and basically extracted some box from a building, right? Yeah. And they went. So that was definitely a military operation on soil.
What that may be is the private contractors operating as the U.S. military. There's all kinds of different groups that the general public, and I've only found out in the last 2 years about this. There's all kinds of these private contracts. It's these private contractors that are essentially running the country. You got the same in England. There's roughly about 19 government services, and the government gets the money and gives it to these private contractors, the likes of Citadel, Fusion, the Fusion Group, G4S, and the group in the UK was called Carillion that went bust. They run the 19 services. When we all think that the government should be running this, and we think the government is running it, well, it's not. It's the likes of Blackwaters and all those private security. They hand over the funds to them and they're running it. And, well, they're not interested in us. Private contractors never have been. In fact, most of the governments in the past have not been interested in us either. But that's about to change, because money talks, doesn't it? You know,
Money talks.
Money talks.
Gold makes the rules. So they're just not aware of it yet, right?
No. You know, so it beggars belief, some of the things that are coming out, and even the top politicians have no idea you've no idea how little politicians really know about their own countries, never mind foreign countries. And that's not just America either. I'm talking about right across the board. They just don't get told nothing.
I never really thought the politicians were all that smart anyway.
No.
Most of the time they're just interested in power and feeding off of the people.
Well, you know, this is the biggest joke is this Alexandria Cortez. Yeah, she's not even a politician.
Yeah, crazy Cortez.
Yes. You know, she was elected by the Justice Democrats.
I applied for the Craigslist ad to become a congresswoman.
That is exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is. How is that even possible? That's how we're choosing, you know, the people that represent us in the government with a casting call. It's amazing.
Well, yeah. You know,
Thomas,
she couldn't even name.
Waking up, though. No, dude, I think she's waking up. If you watch what she's saying, she's realizing she's a pawn. You know, so she's like starting to speak out.
Well, I'm glad she is, because I outed her on the show a couple of weeks ago, and the day later she did a speech and mentioned two aspects that I pulled her up on. So maybe they're listening. But you don't. You were born in a tank. You don't go from a New York bartender to the forefront of the Democratic Party within under 2 years. It just doesn't happen. You know, and they've brought her in because she can speak. Hillary's spent now. Pelosi can't speak at all. She becomes almost an embarrassment. And so they needed others to come forward to do the chatter with scripts, because the minute you start asking Cortez questions, she looks dumb because she hasn't been given those answers.
Right.
You know, she can rattle off the speech. She's rather good at rattling off the speech, but you watch when she gets asked questions back. It's like, hello, McFly.
Yeah, there's definitely no hard for her to string the thoughts together. Right? Don't match, right? So you try and call her on, change the subject because she doesn't know. Anyway, there's these casting calls. You know, we need to have our own casting calls.
Yeah.
We need to have people that can be critical thinkers and put them in office.
Yeah. Trouble is, there's not too many around. You know, this is what we spend most of our time just repeating scripts and not critical thinking. This is what I'm doing with the show, is getting people to future think. You know, the Rothschild has said it many times. The cabal step down. What happens next? Are we just going to sit back and cheer and go great, or are we going to step in and do something? You know, and that's what's going to drive us forward, because you know, you can't replace overnight all the clowns and all the ones that have been committing these crimes. You know, if the so-called 80,000 unsealed indictments are correct, and that's debatable. If it is, who's going to arrest 80,000 people in one go? How are you going to presume most of them are in some sort of an office or representative position? How are you going to replace 80,000 overnight?
Well, if there's was 800,000 were let go in the government shutdown, right? We could probably get rid of 800,000, and government could move on moving forward.
Yeah.
But the people that are in these positions, actually, each indictment can have from 1 to 99 people in it. So
Yeah.
there's 90,000 indictments that could represent, 500,000 people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to take a lot.
Yeah, what over there? We're having a lot. I think Tank, we're getting some feedback from whatever you're doing.
That's with it.
Sorry about that. I'm in a bad location.
Okay.
But when you take a step back, and that's what I like to do. If someone would have said 12 months, 5 years ago, you'd bring the Rothschilds down, oh boy, would I have been happy. So I'm happy this week that we played a big role, in removing a Rowe element family that has created havoc for essentially the last 500 years and rendered them almost mute. It's extraordinary in many ways, with all their resources and all the backing that we've been managed to, essentially in the last 3 years, bring them down. And once one goes,
pretty thin.
Thomas, I really think that's amazing. It needs to be focused on, like the entire corrupt banking system, the entire timeline for the agenda to depopulate the planet has been completely dismantled, and that's all because of the work of Manna and what you guys have been doing up there. So I appreciate it, and I know, and I think more than maybe any other civilian aware of it as much as anybody. So
it's an extraordinary event in and of itself. Like I said, they had all the resources, and we don't have that many people, as you know, and little to no resources. And with hard work and endeavor and a lot of patience, it shows what the people can do. I've said this about the alt media. There's not enough focus. They're focusing on whether the Earth's flat or round, and the RVs and mud floods from Tartaria, and it's all very nice, but they're not affecting the day-to-day life, and the gas price is going up, and the electric price is going up. The fact that every American's paid income tax, which is illegal, and no one says anything, or not enough, and people go, "Oh, you can't take on them." Well, actually, they did. They took on Monsanto, and look what happened to them. They collapsed. They've, the alt media's took on the vaccines. Now they're banning sites. It's gone that far, and that many people have backed out of vaccines. They're banning sites who are covering anti-vaccine. That's a major victory, and that shows you what the people can do when they get together. I think Dan mentioned it before. It doesn't matter whether you have differences of opinion. Just get together,
Yeah. Yeah, we need to just be focused on where we are our same goals and where we're the same, and ignore whatever the differences are.
We've had enough divide and conquer with religion and color and sexuality and all the other nonsense, and we have to go past that and all the program rhetoric. That's important that people step away from that, because that's what, in essence, is holding us back in many ways of driving forward. We are marching forward. It's a fairly, well, it's actually a rapid pace, but in real time for everyday people, it appears it's going slow. But this control system has gone 16,500 years. They had 16,500 years to perfect it. And boy, did they do a good job on this. They did a good job. There's no one, very few on this planet are aware of it. You know,
I used to say they've won the game of Monopoly. Okay, time for a new game.
yeah.
Congratulations, you won. The bankers won the game of Monopoly. No surprise there.
You know,
Well,
I'll say,
ultimately,
Tom,
go ahead, Tank.
no, the one thing that I really that I take note of is when we get to Friday. You know, these jokers are master. The one thing they don't do anything exceptionally except stall. All they can do is get to the weekend. They do it every single week. And I'm of the opinion that the time to act is right now. And I mean now. And I'm not, I mean, I know you guys have done all you could do, Thomas. And I know Kim has done all she could do. But I'm talking to the military. At this point, you ought to be furious. They have been utilized and used to go out and kill people, you know, demolish communities, women, children, burn down houses, do all types of terrible things, you know, obstruct cultures. They know this at this point. If you realize this, you guys should be aggressively going up the ladder talking about enough. Like, how in the hell is Steve freaking useless Mnuchin able to stop the Pentagon and the weight of the U.S. military?
That's because of the way that the system politically and the organizational of it all was set up. You know, in another country, you know, if they'd have done this in Russia, you know, the KGB and the Spetsnaz, and they'd have all gone into the bank or the central bank, and that would have been it. But here, because it was the final takedown place, everything was put in place. You know, everyone, I think most Americans are aware now that 9/11 was an inside job somewhere along the line. And yet these people that were part of that are still walking free. You've got someone who publicly admits deleting 300,000 emails and the rest, and has committed treason, Clinton, and is still walking free. Why? Because the system protected them, where they can't interfere there, and they can't go there, and they can't do this. No, you can't go in there because there's a law for that. They boxed it all up very, very clever. So, you know, people say, well, just go and drag Mnuchin in. And I agree. But what happens is who's going to arrest him? Well, the Pentagon, maybe. Fine. And then which court are they going in? And that's why it was important, because they had all the different departments, legislative and all the state departments, all wrapped up in a box. And if anyone stepped out of line, it just gets covered up by the secret societies, the funny handshake people, and then suddenly the courts, who are all in bed with the same secret societies, just dismiss it. So the fact now that the Department of Justice or the Supreme Court is now 6 in favor of Trump, it can change things, because beforehand it was all the cabal members.
We also have the Trump is taking over the Fed, so and though it's
he should have done that last year, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it looks like he held off on these last 2 appointments for a reason. I think it's more tactical than anything. Looks like the offense has started on this. So, I just wonder: is the Department of Treasury building, is it on its own sovereign territory?
No, it belongs to the trust.
Well, the reason why I was asking, because then if it's a foreign body, then the military can go in there.
Well, the building's owned by the trust. Of course, if we had money, we would have our own enforcement for our own protection. But the building and all the furniture inside of it belongs to the trust. All of it. They didn't pay the lien back to release the pledge.
Well, since the military was doing things for the Chinese elders when they were paying, right? Well, maybe now they can do things for the trust.
Yeah, well, I agree. The Pentagon, I outed it in the show last night. Half of their budget went to the Chinese elders and the Rothschilds. The Pentagon budget. You're talking hundreds of millions of the American people's money. For those who listen regularly to my show, I'm not too fond of military budgets, particularly to that level. 989 billion out of 1.4 trillion discretionary spending. It's 2/3 of the money's going on military. What for? They're not protecting Americans or interests. They haven't. It's a big waste. And then they ask for more money. I think Trump put 450 million in, I think, for the veterans. No, they should pay for that.
Yeah.
They're the ones that damaged them. You should pay. So the people are paying twice.
Yeah. It should be part of the military budget. I agree.
And this is where the people, lackluster people, should be turning around and says, no, we're not paying again. If you can't look after, 1 million or 2 million soldiers out of 989 billion a year, then something has to give, clearly. It's the 17th highest spending in the world, our military budget. There's only 16 countries GDP that's more than our military spending alone.
Well, it is the world military. That's the other side. It's the cabal military. Or they get to send it wherever. So they've been using it in hundreds of bases around the world. Yeah. Why do we need hundreds of bases around the world?
We don't need any. In a civilized world, we wouldn't need any. Why do we need spy centers? It doesn't make sense. It made sense. A lot of the Pentagon and Langley and the NSA only found out because of Kim, when we did some restructuring with the system, that they were being spied on. The Pentagon and Langley were being spied on, and the NSA and the Department of Homeland Security and the White House.
Yeah,
none of them knew.
From a higher level, right? And so they don't get it. They don't know about the circle in a circle.
Nope. They don't even know what's above the families. Right. And that's the frightening thing.
Yeah. But of course they know about some of those things in regards to technologies and things of that nature, but they don't really get how deep the rabbit hole goes. Right? They're at the top, right? So they can't think of anything above where they're at. But this is the time of the disclosure of that information coming out. So, it looks like we lost Tank somehow. But okay. Yeah.
I was wondering why it went quiet.
That's a signal loss, or it's clowns are just playing games again.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, first, since I can speak to you now, thanks for coming on the last time. That was really wonderful, and I would like to say thank you for all the information you put out over the last year. That I was listening all through 2018, and I caught all of your shows, and you have wonderful information. I learned quite a lot from that. So, and that's how I became aware of the trust, was from your show. So I do thank you for that information, because that's how you get the information out. It affects people, and then they take action. So that's why people should take action. Do your own shows. Get out there and spread the word, and let people know what's going on. That's how we change things. We can take down Monsanto. We can get rid of
vaccines. You know, the vaccines that are on the way out, the GMOs, you know, Monsanto, you know, when if only the people realize their own power, because the cabal don't have any power, none. It's all an illusion that because we give them that power,
right?
Like Monsanto, like the vaccines. Once the public turns en masse against something, it ends because they can't handle the public rising up.
I know in the I say the maritime court system and things of that nature, I know part of their rules is that you don't cause a commotion. You don't do things that cause the people to rise up.
No, you deflect and distract, which is, you know, everyone's seen what's gone on in France, and now there's a national event. You know, so it'd be interesting to see. I'm hoping it doesn't affect the French psyche like it affected the American psyche with 9/11. Essentially, that sent a lot of Americans into a coma for nearly a decade.
Yeah,
some longer. You know, and it has a big effect on the country. You know, and there's a lot of French people getting upset over it.
yeah, they're gonna try and put it on the Muslims to start.
Oh yeah. Well, it started burning other churches, which is deliberate, and it's all the Muslims, which is rubbish.
Right.
You know, they just want everyone fighting, whilst one particular group hides. You know, they're pulling the strings, and they're just getting everyone to fight. You know, it's like the same with countries. You know, countries are just an illusion. They're just the pawns that they use for different tactics and different wars and different systems and different programs.
Yeah, just again, division.
Yeah.
So we can focus on all being from Earth, and not from different countries first. They were first from Earth. Come together, and yeah, we have our local issues. You know, where we need a road, where we need to put a stoplight. You know, where the water is going to come from, how it's going to. Yeah, we can solve all those. You know, individually from that perspective, from where we're at. But when you start to get this idea of acting as one country against the other, then you recognize that you're different. And you have to come together and realize we're the same goal, and you try and work out things.
Yeah, well, you know, obviously, two of the main components of World War One and World War Two was Britain and Germany. You know, and there's a dislike that has got better between the Brits and Germans. But, you know, Christmas Day, what happened during the war? They all downed tools and played football.
Right.
On Christmas Day.
Yeah. They put down their arms and they just came together.
Yeah.
That can happen.
Sport and music brings people together. It can do anyway.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, the music actually is, everyone then reharmonizes to a new frequency.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be disappointing and rather tragic. I don't think it's going to be an easy transition. Money goes so far, but money doesn't fix pain, inner pain. You know, and as the public find out, and as the politicians and the presidents and the prime ministers find out what's really been going on here all the time, it's going to be fairly traumatic. You know, and that's why we need people pushing forward now. Is, you know, yes, we've learned. I'm trying to start and changing THI from just a news and intel to something a bit more progressive with ideas, you know, and get the group involved. Of, if you were put in charge, what are you going to do? how you're going to fix the food crisis in Africa or, in China or India. If all the politicians all got jailed tomorrow, someone has to do it.
Right.
And this is the key aspect, is getting people to think again. There's too many who are sitting back waiting for others to fix it for them, demanding change, but don't want to change themselves. Well, how can anything go forward with any sort of pace with people who are demanding changes and everyone else to fix it?
Right. Well, it's the same as
that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the same system where the parents take care of the enslaved class, right? So you're asking for someone else to do something.
That didn't work out too well 16,500 years ago.
Yeah.
So it just didn't.
Time to do it differently. Think different.
Yeah. That's the mantra. As I said that on my very first show, we have to think and act different. You can't carry on expecting change and carry on in the same mode. Everyone on the planet has to change their mindset, because we're all off in different ways, but we have to change the mindset.
I've been looking at changing the mindset from the scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset over the last 3 years, and I've been working through cryptocurrency to do that, right? And recognizing that we would be able to bypass the banks and the governments by use of the blockchain technology. And I understand your ideas about cryptocurrency, and I understand. I do. And
what I would say is it was possible, but not with them in control. And this is what people have to understand. Anyone who's read or watched 1984, that was essentially setting you up. Crypto, as we went through various servers of theirs and fried them all. We also were collecting data from them, and it was the NSA and Langley that set up crypto.
Yeah.
And it's always a backdoor. It's like the BRICS movement: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and everyone's saying they're going to take all the cabal down. No, because that was set up by the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. And they'll always give you something to go for, like the RV, and even to this day, I have to say it, because we haven't delivered yet. I know we're close in many ways, but the trust has to be the same until it delivers. Is something's coming. So people sit back and wait. Well, no. There's things that you can change on your own level. When we talk about the shadow and inner work, loads of money's not going to fix inner trauma. It's just not. If money made people happy, why are the cabal miserable? Look at the faces on Soros and Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. They look like a wet fish.
Yeah. I often say there's a big difference between having fun and being happy.
Yeah.
Right. You can have fun, and then as soon as you're done having fun, you're not happy.
Yeah, because it goes back to the internal thing again. We cover this a lot in the shows, internal and external. Most people are waiting, and I get it. I do get it. They're waiting for the external things like the mass arrests and the funding, their external gratification for winning the war. And I get people want to see that. But the real war is internal. It always was. It's not a war of bombs and planes and weapons. This one, although we've seen a few of them. It's a war for the mind, and a war for the people's hearts and souls, for that matter.
And of course, they want unhappiness. They want they
low
want
vibration,
fear, and because that is a benefit to them on many levels. Their food and their control and their overall, they must not be happy.
No, they're not.
Uh,
They're not. You know, and that's because deep down inside, they all know. They just keep the mask. I did a piece about 3 years ago, and I said everyone has a mask of illusion. We all have weaknesses and insecurities and things we can't do, and we cover it up. We use a mask. And you'll go and meet someone that you may not like, and you go, "Hi." it's the mask of not the real you. And over the last 2 years, and we're nearly a third of the way through this year, those masks are coming down. And I said it would get ugly back in 2016 because most people are not being themselves. They're not nice behind the scenes. Why? Because they got too much inner trauma that they haven't dealt with. That you were laughed at school. You weren't the best between your siblings. You didn't get as many pieces of paper called degrees as the other sibling. And all this family trauma plays in, and then they go out and hi, and it's all false.
Yeah,
you've got to be more real.
Yeah, they lie to themselves about,
Yeah.
and they create these false realities, and then they have to put all their energy into supporting the false realities, and then that doesn't make them happy. It actually makes it worse.
Worse. Yeah. And people think that if I go to church, that's going to get rid of all my sins. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because it's still in, because you haven't dealt with it. It's not up to the church or your God or Jesus to fix your sins. That's your responsibility. Because no one can take that away from you. You have to deal with it. And I said to people, someone in the group, I put out in the op-ed pieces to ponder on, to get people thinking on different things. And there's a question this week: if you had the choice of one thing to change, what would it be? And my answer was, everyone acts in personal responsibility under the golden rule, because that changes everything.
Yeah.
Because under that, if everyone's not killing each other, not harming each other, not stealing off each other, then there is no cabal, is there? It's just that one simple thing.
I looked at the 10 Commandments one day, and I wanted to summarize it, right? Really look at what is it trying to say, and it all came. I could bring it all into one word: respect.
Yeah.
Right. You respect yourself. You respect God. You respect others. Everything. It's all about respecting the other people, seeing their sovereignty. All right. That is another way of saying that. I see you. Then if we just respect one another, respect differences of opinion, respect differences in that they exist. The differences exist. Great.
But the sad thing is that our differences are largely created by fake programs.
Yes.
Because we believe in this, and we believe that all Germans are Nazis, and we believe that all Americans are warmongers, or you could go on, that all the Brits were part of the British Empire, and the Dutch with the East Indies, they're trouble, and all the Chinese are trying to take all our patents, and the Russians spend all day drinking vodka or do looking bland. These are the opinions and assumptions we have of the different peoples around the world, but it's not reality. Because if you've gotten spoken to a Muslim person, they're not all jihadists. Those jihadists were created by the same system that we're trying to take down. And a lot of our differences, people just have to open themselves up a bit and be more honest. You know, and the biggest liar is ourselves. We lie to ourselves all day, you know, and we have to stop doing that. You know. Hi, Tank.
Yeah,
Hey.
he's back.
I'm listening. Sorry about that, guys.
You missed
driving.
it. You know, Thomas said that the money broke through. We have it.
We have it where? In our accounts?
Yeah, it's in our accounts right now.
No kidding.
Yes, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I feel like I would have known that. I feel like I would have felt the ripple in the force there.
Well, we have seen them in the past.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the accounts, I've seen what went into my account late last year. So it did go that far, and then the call came in, and that's what we're trying to tweak. It's only tweaking now. You know, we've done overhauls. We've removed servers because, you know, we did warn them, if you are going to ping the quantum system, we're going to ping back and fry your whole system, which is what we've done to several. Tank will bear that out.
Yes, indeed.
And now it's just a matter of little tweaks here and there that will then transfer from point A, the trust, directly into the account, and it doesn't have to go through different compliance and departments to get there. We will get there. We're not that far off. And that's the ultimate goal. So we don't have to go into the Treasury or to the Pentagon terminal or to the Trump terminal, which we've used a few times, and then it comes back out. No, the object is we're autonomous, and it's going to go from point A to point B. No zigzagging here and there, because that's you know that's the way it should be.
Right.
That is the way it should be. You know, Thomas, one of the things I
you know, it's like me sending you money. It should go from point A to point B. Live, there shouldn't be others involved.
Yeah.
The platform is there, but suddenly that's going through the bank, the Treasury, the compliance department, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and they all had wires into the banks, including universities. Universities had access to people's bank accounts. 300,000.
It's amazing.
No, that will it's largely been whittled down because they don't have a need to be that amount accessing people's accounts. And the ultimate goal is point A, point B. No,
well, I know. And see, I lost my bank accounts when I was at Swissindo 4 years ago, and I started talking with them, and I did some videos, and I went out and did this series of interviews. First, you know, the one video, the first video went viral, 87,000 views in 4 days, and then it dropped to 0.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can't
typical.
go on the figures on YouTube and Google.
Well, I know.
Can't.
But it was my first experience, right? It's all my first video, and to get it go viral on my first video, and I'm going, well, that's interesting. It's a 4,000 views an hour increase, and we're high-fiving in the media room, and yay! And then, boom, dropped to 200 views an hour. Well, what happened there? We went out and did some interviews. I get a call from my office, and all of my business accounts were being shut down. Well, I gave a 30-day notice. You got to close out all your business for 30 days.
Yeah, we did that to Kim as well. Kim can't have a bank account.
Yeah, after that, you know, I said, okay, well, I was in cryptocurrency from that point on, right? So whenever I wanted to transfer, I went from one person to another person, or man to man, just figuring that person is the wrong word, right? So man to man, peer to peer, that we're going between our wallets. There is no one in the middle to stop it, and that's the way it should be. You know, there's no need to have a settlement happen later on at 2 a.m. in the morning somewhere. other service, someone dipping in and grabbing money from the transfer. So all of these things don't need to be there.
No, well, that's another thing. The compliance department where you send someone a couple of $100 and one of you is being flagged, that's getting kicked back to the compliance. So someone out of the Treasury then, or the Fed, sorry, it was the Fed, it's now the Treasury, then had to ring the Treasury with that compliance. Well, if someone doesn't bother, that just sits there. Of course, that's with them. It goes on to a high yield earning platform, as you know. When the transfers in October, we've done 4 transfers, and it went to compliance. And so the bank, this was shitty bank, as Kim calls it,
Yeah.
then had to contact direct to the Fed and or the Treasury, and they just went silent. But they knew where it was coming from, you see. And so Citibank said, come back tomorrow. It may be available tomorrow. And then it's come back tomorrow. And then it started sounding like the RV. Tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
So, and in the end, he says, it's not there. But you showed me on the screen.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Well, eventually,
they were supposed to
that's
sign
where
a private
Kim's,
bank, a
what
private
Kim's
banker, right?
getting at, that human interaction where we've kind of shut down the machines blocking it to a degree. It's more human. So someone makes a call and go, don't release those funds. Well, we're trying to cut that out. And we will get there. We will get
I agree.
there. It only takes $1. And that's the, from my perspective, and I want to make that clear, not Kim's, mine. Trump should have done more. Tank knows the work we've done on behalf of Trump. We've not only just been involved in the funds, we got involved with the disaster relief. I know Kim's been working on the Social Security. We got involved in restructuring the tax altogether. That was our papers that went in, and all the costings, which were essentially, see, at the moment, the country, America, the country is being ran by the trust, 100%, because all the taxes were getting siphoned out again.
You mean the USA Inc. or you mean the Republic?
No, there is no republic. It's the Inc.
Okay.
The whole country is being run by the trust, and has been since last March, and less so before that, but certainly since then, when we had more control over what budget we were going to give. Because they can ask for whatever they like. It doesn't mean to say that we are going to hand over, because we are aware that some of it is not going to nice people, and it's like what happened last March. We sent over 700 billion and 400 went out the back door. Right off the bat, because they knew that the country could get by on 300,000 or 300 billion from the March. Trump kicked the can down the road and says it's from March through September. Well, I was hoping that actions would have been taken in that time. I think we all were, and it's kind of disappointing. Here we are, a year, 15, 16 months later, that action hasn't been taken, and despite all the work that Kim's done in particular, there's others that have chimed in, including myself, obviously, but Kim's work in particular has not been recognised by being paid the trust 2% fee, which is not going all to Kim. Technically, it all belongs to Kim because she's the trustee like the previous trustee got it, and that way Kim can get paid. Kim hasn't been paid for 6 years doing this job, 5 or 6 years. I've been involved for just coming up to 3 now, and I've put a lot of hours and a lot of effort into it, and I haven't been paid. The security people haven't been paid. The ambassador that goes into the treasury, he hasn't been paid. There's lots of people who need to be paid, and the government, given the help that we've given them, and we gave them hundreds of thousands of files, incriminating files, that should have been acted upon. And that's kind of the frustration from my part, Kim as well to a point, but I'm talking more about my perspective rather than dropping Kim in it, so to speak. And I think more should have been done.
Hey, Thomas, what do you think about the? I mean, because
I don't know whether Tank's muted or he's got the same line as.
Tank, he can't hear you.
That's frustrating.
Hey, now you know how I feel.
Yeah. Thomas, can you hear me now or no? No?
No, I can't hear Tank.
No.
I'll just be quiet. That's
Oh,
funny. Well. Hey, Tank. Tank, just drop off the line and then come back on. Try that. Yeah. So that might work. Let's see. I didn't want to do that last time because if I dropped off and maybe the whole thing.
Well, as you set up the one that set it up, that takes the whole show off. So
yeah, so I didn't do it, but he can do that. He might be able to come back on in here. But anyway, this is well, that's okay. Just fun and games.
Yeah, well, we're used to that.
all right. Thomas, can you hear me
So
now?
that's what we were talking about figures. I remember I had a really heavy Intel update in, I think it was August last year, and I just got into it. Next minute, the plug got pulled, and which kind of pleased me in a way, because it was near the top end rather than the back end. And I'd switched the Intel around that time. Normally it goes in the second hour. It went earlier, that one. And when they ran the analytics, generally it shows up at that time, maybe 600 listen live. Now it's over 1,000. And it's a limited platform. I believe there's a number who couldn't get on it last night. But a lot of people listen to the archives, and I can never track the figures because some of them are going to other sites that cover our show, like Lucid Dreaming and whatnot. But what I was surprised is when we ran the analytics to find out who was pinging the computer, it was coming up 250,000 for listening to the show, which is nowhere near the figures that they're producing. That's what I says. I don't even follow the figures. I have no idea how many subscribers I've got or how many people listen. I only know how many listened last night because as I'm shutting it down, it says you had live listeners. So.
Oh, when we were into I think the second week, I was looking at the numbers of and I had 2 views, right, but 30 people in the chat.
Mm.
So that was 15 to 1. So
yeah.
Well, we have to do 15 times more work for it to etch out.
And then you get these other YouTubers no one's ever heard of, and suddenly they've got 87,000
Sure.
listens to them, and you're thinking, why? And what it is, it's all about dropping you down the rankings. So people will type in, Intel or spirituality. If it's tagged, then Intel, ours will go near the top. because it's tagged each week as intel, where they want to knock it right down and put you on to people like David Wilcock and Corey Good, where they can spout bullshit, sadly, and that's the way it goes. So let them, it's another win. The way I see it, it's another win for the people, because if they're spending their time interfering with YouTube shows and Spreaker shows, oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yep. Yeah. They can't deal with this spreading as fast as it is. They really don't know how to react. So quiet.
They could do. It started changing. When I was first on the internet, there was very few of us. There's a lot of people interested in ETs and conspiracies, and it's kind of branched out from there. But it changed around 2008, and they're always, or they were at the time, one step ahead, and they just flooded the old media with their people. They're telling you what you want to hear to a point, and then mixing it up with a pile of BS,
Yeah.
And that's sadly the
controlled opposition.
The way it went. Alex Jones being a classic example. You only have to analyze it. I know from the background that most people won't. He's connected with the Israeli group on the Stratfor, and he has other links into Mossad. But Jones got shut down late last year, I think. And he turned around and said, that's cost me $3 million in advertising. $3 million. And then you look at it, who the advertisers are. They're all cabal corporations. Do you really think the cabal corporations are going to give Jones money to out them? It's not happening, is it? Microsoft and Google and Yahoo haven't approached you and says, here's $500,000 to do your show. Have they?
No. But I said yesterday that it would be good if the U.S. military uses their advertising budget to support the show. I do an ad for the military. They've got the downloaded, so
the cost of a few toilet seats. Their prices for toilet seats each week.
I'll charge the toilet. It's no problem. It's okay. They've got the money now down. So let's get it flowing here.
Yeah, $450 for the toilet seat. Yeah, right.
Those are really special toilet seats. There was this story about the millions and millions of dollars spent on a pen that could write in space. And the Russians, they basically solved it by using a pencil.
It's a pencil, yeah. 175, I don't know, it's million actually, or thousand.
Oh, maybe I might be wrong. I thought it was millions that they spent on developing writing.
And then the Russians just gave him a pencil. It's not good to see.
Who's smarter there, right?
Yeah. And this is where cooperation, the reality is behind the scenes, all the countries are cooperating, but they're cooperating for the system. The illusion that America and Russia are at war is a public game, because the Five Eyes system, the Langley has been working with the KGB since 1944. So why all this rubbish about Russian collusion? If you're going to talk about Russian collusion, then there you have it. Langley works directly as one of the Five Eyes with the KGB. Also Pine Gap, also GCHQ, London, and Debka and Mossad. They're all working together.
Yeah, it's one system.
Yeah.
One system of control at
Their
that
system.
level. I don't know how many levels that is above Trump. Where are they at?
Well, the top of the deep state's 49. That's 26 levels above the president.
Well, who can elevate Trump's clearance?
Well, they won't. That's a certainty.
Kim can move him up to above a Mnuchin.
Yeah. Well, Rothschild thought he could elevate Mnuchin to 62, which is still below Kim, which is a complete waste of time anyway.
Well, it looks like Mnuchin is on his way out, publicly.
Yeah, we've been waiting for that since October. The files we sent. Plus, he hung himself twice right in front of Trump. In fact, the two of them came to blows and had to be separated in January.
Come to blows. Who won?
I think the Secret Service stepped in, but it got real nasty.
I would put money on Trump on that one.
Yeah, well, he's only in a munchkin, isn't he?
Mnuchin, yeah, Steve Mnuchin. Well,
so he needs to go. He's not the only one that needs to go in the Treasury. Clearly, because Mnuchin can direct. Maybe it was him that directed FinCEN to siphon. I don't know whether you got all the details of what happened with FinCEN.
No,
we found that they were siphoning billions out of the banking system using the FBI server. Now, that sounds disappointing that the FBI are involved, but that is another hidden win for what Kim and the team have done. Is they can't use their own servers anymore because that many of them have been fried or been cut out of the system altogether. So they've been going to all kinds of different servers trying to get in back doors and sideways and all that. So they were siphoning billions out of the bank using the FBI servers under the guise that it was being used for compliance, that word again. So with compliance, it means it's this fund or this money or this person collecting this money has been flagged. And then they're going to have ask approval from the Fed or the Treasury. Can they release those funds to that customer? But it's getting kicked back and going in compliance. And that compliance fund was owned by Hillary Clinton. Yeah.
It's crazy. So, yeah.
So
Hillary she owns all the security keys for the whole entire network. Internet.
She's got keys to a lot of things. Well, she did anyway. Not as much now.
It gets removed. I know that the original patent holder on that technology has been working towards trying to get that information, including the patents that would basically affect what social media is all about.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is the algorithms that Facebook used that came out of Langley again, and open source that's being promoted on the internet by another ex-Langley. He's not ex at all.
I've been a long time opponent of open source from the 90s, early 90s. I've been against it.
Well, that was was created for and by NATO, open source.
Yeah, all I know is that you weren't able to make money with it. You couldn't have ownership. Even if you had ownership from the side, you were the writer of software. You could not make any money from it. So what was the good of ownership? You couldn't support yourself.
Well, that was I outed it in a recent show with Robert David Steele, because it was him that set up open source back in 1993.
Oh, okay.
And he admitted, because he's taken somebody to court, in the court documents, it stated that it was written for them by NATO. So, they're telling you it was the public, we're going to be transparent, but clearly it states it's transparent for a private intelligence group and taking it away from the main group. But the people who were running this private intelligence all came from the main group. And it's one of these back doors that sounds great until you look at the fine print, where you think, oh, transparency, and this is going to be great. But no, it's the same people running it. And it's a way of getting around certain country laws of becoming a private agency ran by someone from the agency with the agency system. And that's essentially what.
Do you remember the Commodore Amiga computer?
Yeah.
So,
yes.
The Amiga was a system that I started with, and it's very much more advanced than any systems, even to today. And I was buying Amiga from Gateway Computer because they had bought it out of bankruptcy, and I was going to relaunch it with some newer technology. And I had the open source crowd coming to me wanting to open source the Amiga operating system. And I basically wrote this article, and I related the operating systems of computers to the political systems. And I said, well, the Linux is a socialist operating system, and Apple was a benevolent monarchy with King Jobs. Yeah. And the Microsoft was a fascist dictatorship. Yeah. And Amiga was a capitalist system. Yeah. And I made the point is that the socialist system can't make any money with, of course, and eventually you'll have the rise of a dictator and it'll become communist. And that's what was happening between Red Hat and Caldera. Both of them started fighting and say, only if you write it on our platform, you'll only work on our platform. That was, the communist grab. But I was pitching at the time open architecture and closed source. So closed source meaning you could have ownership, but the architecture meant in the technology that everybody had the level playing field. Everyone had the same tools, no backdoors, no special tools that only Microsoft could use or only Apple could use. In this open architecture system, everyone had based on their own abilities to go out and do something, right? Yeah. And make something and make money for themselves. Yeah. A long time opponent of this. This was back in 1999. I wrote this article.
Oh, cool. Yeah, but that's not the way they wanted it. No. Even the big companies were just harvesting centers. They just harvest up all the lower people, all the technology. What America did, because I highlighted kind of last night about well, actually, I didn't do that piece, which I'm going to do next week, about the IQ and where America stands and the reason for it. And they haven't invested in expertise in various trades. And so they were bringing people in. And this is where the likes of SpaceX and Richard Branson and all those type of people, Elon Musk, they were being given all kinds of funds by Langley and Northrop Grumman. And then as they build the company up, you always need 3 stages of funding. The first 2 is great as they're building the company up, and then the third one becomes production and you start making money. And then they used to pull the plug. And well, always this amount of funding, and that gets swallowed into the Northrop Grummans and the Bechtels and Boeing and all that stuff. And then it gets transferred again. And this is what they did. I highlighted last night about the banks. The 3rd and 4th largest bank got swallowed by JP Morgan. This 11th and 15th bank got swallowed by HSBC. It was harvesting. Not only was it a bailout, it was a harvesting of all the lower end banks to condense it into the main ones. And this is what they've been doing. It's just a continual harvesting program.
Yeah, the cannibalizing itself, right? It just eats the lower levels and keeps eating it upwards until there's only one. But since Kim is at the top, then they eat the last one, they're gone.
Yeah.
Don't they realize?
Well, this is what they're going to have to. They've been. Some of them have been finding out. Is I had Tank mentioning early on about the 90%. That was the first phase. Was the second phase was the other 10.
That's what I was saying. And then they're going to repopulate from the off-world populations.
No, and what they were going to do is they were going to remove all the resources that they wanted, and then destroy it, and make the planet inhabitable. They've done it to many other worlds. It's a repeat pattern. That was the end goal. Get rid of all the humans and the animals and the resources in a steady harvesting mode and destroy it with the fast weapon. It's what they've done to a lot of other worlds.
And what sense does that make? It's craziness.
But that's their mentality.
Yeah.
It's their mentality. The militaristic and hierarchy. This is where all this hierarchy and fake titles and fake badges. They are, I mentioned this on my own show about the Grammy Awards and the Emmy Awards and this awards and that awards. And all they're doing is distracting them all. You have this award this year. No, you have it next year. And no, it's your turn. And they're all clapping each other.
And nobody's watching anymore, too.
No, it's all an illusion.
Yeah, so we don't care.
It's not only illusion for us. It's the people who are in it who think they're all so important, so special, and we're famous. And I'm a TV star. Don't realize they're pawns in the game, and they're just distracting them. I won the Emmy this year.
Oh, and then they came running out to give everyone a vaccine on camera.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. They're pawns. You're being used.
I did a piece. No, I haven't done a piece yet. From Russia with Love 4 that I'm writing at the moment. And you've got Angela Merkel and the Germans, of course. We've all heard the backstory of the Germans and the Jews in World War II. And yet, Angela Merkel has got the presidential medal from Israel. They just give these people all these awards. It's like the Freemasons. I'm the Grandmaster this, and and this title, and sovereign, and knights, and all this stuff. They're just distracting them. That's all they've done.
And giving pretty pieces of paper. Transfer your ownership, or we'll give you some pretty paper.
Yeah, Marduk cared not about currency. Currency is not real money. He knows that. The American Constitution knows that. The only real money is gold and silver. Everything else, it doesn't matter whether it's dollars or pounds or euros, it's false. It's currency. Currency is not real money. It's substitute money. So Marduk, as the trustee, would give pieces of paper out like confetti because it has no value. If you sell it, that piece of paper, what are you going to get for it?
And the people are killing themselves over this paper.
Yeah.
Stumbling over themselves to kill each other. To grab up.
All Marduk was interested is he wanted the assets, the real resources, the gold, the silver, platinum, gold, oil, you name it, or the buildings or the land. It all went into the trust, and he went, thank you very much. Have some confetti.
Have some
dollar bills. Because intrinsically the dollar has no value. It's a piece of paper. Literally.
Oh, it's worth 2.5 cents.
Yeah.
The cost of the paper.
Yeah. Piece of paper. So have all these dollars and yuan and all this stuff. He cared not for that. And they all took it and thought they're all so important. In reality, they were harvesting agents, all of them. That's got to hurt for these royals and all these title people.
When they realize, we transferred everything into the trust and we have nothing left. And then until we have no control over it, it's twiddle their thumbs now, right?
Yeah, it's like Anna von Reitz.
And so the Rothschild says, well, I guess we're going to get out of the banking, sell off the Black Forest and our chalet over here. And what are we going to do? What are they going to do now?
Well, they knew. I can kind of say it what got said now in private in the Fed when they called all the banks in I think it was early February, late January, early February. I think it was around the time the government was opened back up. Not that anyone noticed it was shut, or anyone's noticed it's opened again, really. And during the meeting, the compliance people were telling the Fed and the Treasury, you need to go with the trust. And the Fed turned around and the Treasury objected. And the Fed turned around and said to the Treasury, you do realise we're effed. And we heard it. We heard it loud and clear. The Fed admitted, you do realise we're effed. That was back in February. So it was just a matter of counting the days down and keeping, obviously there's a lot of work that's gone into it and a lot of work that's been involved, and that will continue. Because they won't stop. The top end people are complete psychopaths. They're not going to stop. They're going to try and get a load
of other, that's all they know.
A load of other Asian or Chinese hackers and thinking one day they're going to break into it. No, you're not. No, you're not. But they can try, and they can waste more of their resources trying to use the different machines and servers, and we'll sit back and watch, and then we wait long enough to recognize where it is, and then it gets pinged and then fried.
I heard that piece you did about the IBM new machine that they brought online, and they were to basically, hack into the existing system.
It's not happening. It's not happening. It's a long, long time before they can get anywhere near this level of technology, because it's not just technology either. And that's there is a biological component to it, and they're not going to get around that because they don't have the right intent, and they don't have the right DNA, and they don't have the right abilities to interact with it. So it doesn't matter whether if they had managed to take Kim out, it wouldn't have made a difference, but they still wouldn't have got into it. Just won't work for them. And this is what I've been telling people in the various shows I've done over the last 6 years. Nothing works for them anymore. It's not their timeline. It went on January the 1st, 2013. They'd lost. Now we have to step up and claim the win. They're not going to hand it over. We have to claim the win. We've already won.
Okay, that's January 2013. What happened? What happened on that at that time?
A new future began, which we have to create. The looking glass technology went down. They knew it was going down in 2003, and they got people to try and interact it, to do everything to get it back up. But the minute it went to January 2013, static. No pictures, nothing. And so the reason it's static,
no return of the gods.
That's not happening either. Once the we kind of, this was before I met Kim, we kind of pushed the Draco out in certain circumstances. Some of them stayed behind, the ones that they didn't want. It was Marduk was not wanted by his family. It's not popular. So he got left behind to teach him a lesson, except we were paying the price. But the bulk of the Draco left in 15. And, since then, everything's escalated, which was forecast in our show, because the people that are left, and I said this to Kim, and she's seen a lot more evidence of it now, none of these people are leaders. They're all followers. They all followed M's orders, every one of them. They're not leaders. And, you can't make leaders overnight. And then the ego kicks in. Our royal family's better than your royal family. China's better than America. Israel's better than everyone else. And then they start fighting. Once the Illuminati itself went over a decade ago. There's been no Illuminati for over a decade, and it broke up into the factions. And I did that. I outed the factions, which brought a lot of attention on me because they didn't think people would work it out. Back in December of 2015. People are now starting to see the different factions and where everyone fits in. The only ones that couldn't fit in were the royals. Why? Because they're not part of it anymore. They were lower down the chain.
I don't think I heard about the factions until maybe late in 2017. I think for Benjamin Fulford. It's the first time I heard about the factions. The split.
Yeah, I did a whole show on it. We did the show, Shane and I, Shane Aruna, on the Wheel Within the Wheel faction. That was in the September, and then in the November of 2015, late November or early December, I did the faction show, and that detailed the 5 factions. Of course, the Rothschilds are were backing all 5, so they win. So they thought, except they lost.
So this that chart, I saw it on the projectspeak.net, where the wheel within the wheel. It was very hard to make out what it says. It'd be good if there was a way to see a high resolution scan of that.
Only that we've been ultra busy, and Kim at certain times has been on lockdown. We were going to do a video show where we present the whole document. You would have to stand behind me to see the whole document. It's 5.5 foot tall and about 2.5 foot wide. And the government is 1/2 inch from the bottom, and the military are 1 inch from the bottom.
You can go over to Kinko's and use their scan, right?
So I said I had it here for about 6 weeks. We worked out when I was back in Florida. We worked out a lot of it, and then when I got hold of it, I could see where other pieces fitted, and then between us we managed to work out who the boxes are, which wheel was this and which wheel was that and which wheel was this. And that top end was probably maybe 300 to 500, maybe even 600, the wheel within the wheel within the wheel within the wheel, and they were all spokes. You will have seen that. And then there's small, right? It's really small when you've got it in front of you. But in 4 of those 4 to 600 boxes within those 4 wheels, it said human in 4 boxes.
Only 4.
Only 4. So there's only really 4 humans who were part of that inner circle. One of them will be Kissinger. Because Kissinger's way older than 95. Way older than 95.
Wow.
Maybe Jacob Rothschild may have been likely to be in another, because that family's got more Draco DNA than any other family on this planet. All the Rothschilds.
What about the Rockefellers?
Well, they were opportunists that were set up by the trust.
Yeah. So they seem to be like all the American industrialists that came out of the Industrial Revolution. They just kind of seem to like take over at a period of time. As kind of outmaneuvered the monarchies. And the way I saw it is that the monarchies looked at those people as the new money, and they didn't want to associate with them, right? But they were becoming more powerful, right? Being able to move goods and things around, and access to the oils and all. So literally, they outmaneuvered the royals, and actually broke into the circle. Well,
yeah. Well, that's part of the families. If you look about 3/4 of the way down, there's a gap on that page, and it's got a box in the middle, and it says 301 families, not 13, 301, and they controlled all the lower end, with a firewall to the rest of the 70%. And essentially, the likes of the Rockefellers and the Wahlbergs, all the houses, of course, it goes back to Ra. Marduk played Ra. Ra is more of a title, and Marduk was Ra and also Baal.
Right. So, the American Industrial broke in, became part of the bloodline families, part of that 301.
Yeah. The Kennedys and the Bundys and all those people, and the houses out of Europe. Of course, Washington was batting for the British, and Jefferson was batting for the French, which were both owned by the Rothschilds.
So, but the 13 families, that one would be over the 300.
The bloodline nobility ones, yeah. That's the Aldebrenis and Medicis and those Orsini and those type. They're closer to the inner circle, not in the inner circle, but closer. They're likely to be in the 9 pyramids that are below.
So, any humans above that level?
No. A lot of corporations, but they're not all human.
Right. So corporates, yeah. Corporate entities.
Well, you've got the core pirates, as I call them, because that's the real term. The pirates from the sea, pirates on the land.
Maritime law, right?
And then you've got the next stage. The core pirates are harvesting for the top 50%, and then in the top 50%, you had what's known as the conglomerates.
Right.
Who then harvested up slowly but surely all the core pirates.
Yeah, gobbling them up.
Yep. That's all it was. It's essentially, it's very clever what they've done, but I'm sure after if you've been working on it for 16,500 years, it should be clever, particularly when you over time you are dumbing people down and throwing wars in and using all kinds of illusionary tech, mind control. That is not did not start with Langley and MK Ultra and CIA and all that stuff. You know, it's the mind control's been going on a long time.
Oh yeah, it goes. What you can just think about how the kings would treat the serfs, the peasants, and how they would manipulate them. You know, at that time, it's still the same kind of thing. But they know how they would react. They present a problem. They create the problem, and then here's the solution. They did it back then.
Yeah, I just wish the people wouldn't give them the reaction to provide the solution. We've been played on that far too many times. And we mentioned it earlier about the Muslims, blame the Muslims for everything. You know, it's gone quiet. It's funny, I mentioned this last night. We hardly heard much about blame the Muslims for near 2 years. Why? Because the old program has blamed the Russians for everything. Now that's fallen flat. It's let's go back. The Muslims are the problem. Well, no, they're not. You know,
Well, it's like the QAnon phenomena, and got people to start digging.
yeah,
And so now,
it's good stuff.
yeah. So as soon as like this came out about Notre Dame and everything, and then you saw this. I don't know if you saw this, but there was one picture where it showed Michelle Obama drinking a glass of wine, and in the image, a reflection shows Notre Dame is burning, as though she's celebrating, right?
Yeah.
But someone dug in. They dug into that photo, and they says, "Look, here's the lines, the cutouts, right? This is something to inflame people, saying, making it look like they're celebrating it, and it's the Muslims that are doing it."
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Part of the psyop.
Yeah. And yet they ignore the dancing Israelis, which was real.
Yeah.
You know, that just got brushed under the carpet, and they got deported back, and that's it.
Yeah. There's a piece on Serial Brain 2. I don't know if you follow them, that YouTube channel, Serial Brain 2, but they just did a first part, and they just brought up this same thing about the dancing Israelis, and they went back to Trump's old speeches where he's talking about he saw the people celebrating, in the streets, right? Yeah. And even though they were trying to hush it up, and here's what he said, So these people were doing it, and so now the Serial Brain, they go into more of these really deep puzzles, the brain teasers. The way I look at it is the brain teasers are put into the QAnon to get people to dig and wake up, start using their brains, critical thinking.
We have to start thinking again. Most people are thinking past. If they really analyze their thoughts and the way they think, it's all in the past. And I've done a lot of examples. Everyone wants. Well, let's use the funds. The trust funds comes out tomorrow. What happens next? You and Tank will have some ideas because you've made some plans here and there. But if you put somebody else, they wouldn't know what they would stall on the first answer. Why? Because they haven't thought in the future. If suddenly we got energy machines, free energy, what happens next? Have you thought it out? Where would we build them? Which state would we start first? Which country would we start first?
How do you integrate it into society that doesn't cause society to collapse because you're integrating it?
Yeah, well, people, and rightly so, because it is 100 years out of date technology, oil. Will say get rid of it, but millions of people would lose their jobs overnight. Have you come up? It's fine saying get rid of it. I think most of us would agree with that. But have you come up with a plan of how you're gonna clean it up for the start, or how many jobs are going to be lost, and where can they be placed to keep them in work? You know, these are the things that people have to think of. It's future thinking. Most people are thinking now and the past. When is this going to happen? When?
Right.
Now, when this happens, are you ready? Have you got your proposals ready? Have you thought about what you'd like to do? You know, not everyone wants to go and set up their own business. Some people would like to do a different job with the funds, you know, a job that they would like to do. Can we facilitate them? Have they thought, well, if funds comes out, I'd like to go and work in an animal shelter, say.
Or maybe they want to become a doctor, or maybe they want to become a vet, or maybe they want to become an engineer, and they just never had the money to go to school, and they don't or support themselves.
You know, that's the likes of the things the People's Club or Tanks Group will be able to facilitate. You know, if it's going to grow that person and it has the ability to improve other people, then that's worth funding.
I like when Tank first told me the first project is you, right? Yeah, it makes a bunch of sense. You know, you got to focus and take care of your initial things and what you know, so that you can focus on what you want to do. You know, you can't be worrying about how to pay your electric bill and then figure out how you're going to do something else, and the money is all over here for this. But no, you can't. You got to take care of yourself. You know.
Yeah. Well, first browser is Kim. You know, in my opinion, you know, she's done the bulk of it. She's the one that's carried all the pressure of it. Although I've helped with that aspect since I've working closely with her. You know, and then it goes from there. Kim will then go off and do something a lot more pleasant than dealing with bankers and rogue politicians and rogue families and all kinds of other goons promising, yeah, we'll help you out. And then when it comes to dotting the I's and crossing the T's, oh, sorry, it didn't work. With the volume of them. You know, people's, oh, we've got this credit card, or we got this system, it's going to work around this system. Yeah, right, okay. So, you know, Kim, obviously, where we are now, we're kind of in a box to a degree. You know, it's only 11 square miles we're allowed to travel, generally. Particularly more so Kim.
Safe zone.
Yeah, more so Kim than I, you know. And Kim would she says to me every day, I need a vacation. I need a vacation. And I says, I always wind up and I say, yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always heard 2 weeks from programmers. Yeah, it was like
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That goes back to the old system that it's programming. It's half the moon cycle, because Marduk and all these the Freemasons and all these factions, they all have the meetings on the moon cycle. If they're going to roll out the RV, it's on a moon cycle, and moon is moonth.
What's going to happen on the red moon and the blue moon and the
yeah, you know, so they don't operate on the solar cycle. They operate with Lilith and the moon cycle, and half a moon cycle is 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That's why that's so prevalent.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I hope that it's not 2 more weeks. I know what to do when the money's in. It's not a problem for me to figure out what the next steps are and what to do. But it is kind of shifting around because here in the Philippines, I know I've talked to a couple people that I know are going to be, the right people to kind of put into place to help develop projects, right, and to handle the influx of people that are going to want to have projects done. Right? So, and then from, there's so much. What to do first will just come right after the other. I'm going to need to have.
If it was up to me, and Kim kind of asked me this when I first started, if you were the trustee, what would you do? And I said the first thing was to get everyone the 5 basics in life. Most of us that are listening to this show have got that and take it for granted. As you'll know about the Philippines and some of the other islands and Africa and lots of other places, they haven't. Some of them don't even have one of those basics that we take for granted. And I think that has to be, when people are going forward with projects that in the poorer countries, that has to be at the forefront. Get those people the 5 basics. They all think that we live like kings. We call it the 1%, but most of us are in the top 10% compared to the rest of the world. Yeah. Certainly the top 15%.
Well, I ended up since 2014, and there was no plan to do this. But it wasn't like I went to a travel agent and said, book me in the poorest countries on the planet. Because that's what happened. I went to Mozambique, well, South Africa, but the point was to get to Mozambique. And then, of course, the Philippines, Laos, right? China as well, but that's a different category of third world. Not really, but anyway, and Sri Lanka. I didn't make a plan to go to this, but I ended up going to these places, and it was as though I was needed to pick up and learn something about these poorest
yeah.
on the planet.
Yeah, perspective. Yeah,
perspective.
Teaches you perspective. So
here's the one thing I do know is everybody, everywhere I went, was kind. Everyone, other than the scenery being different and some interesting selections of food. I did not eat the insects in Thailand, but I'm very adventurous. But the insects, I just drew that line. It's like I really don't have to eat that, right?
No, or Fido either, or Toto.
Yeah, well, yeah. I had adobo here in the Philippines, so it was only. Of course, I was only told about it afterwards. Okay, well, it was delicious.
It tastes like chicken. Everything else. Yeah, so that would be, and maybe it's something Ten can look at, and you can look at being there. What we've tried to do recently is set up THI groups in every country. They've had quite a learning lesson of how to be and how not to be within our shows. Need, not greed. That has to be the way forward. Their way was greed, and it all collapsed. Right. Not a single business survives. It only survived because the trust backed it up. That's all. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, every single company on this planet would have collapsed. They're collapsing now. Why? Because they haven't got the trust money, they haven't got leverage money, they haven't got back doors into the system and slush funds for this and slush funds for that. And it's collapsing because it's all based on greed. You've got CEOs earning $400,000 and $500,000 a year. There's no need to have that amount of money per year. But that means if you've got 500,000, there's probably 500,000 people who have got nothing. Yeah, that's how that old system works, And I would like to see us all not replicate that system of greed and more go towards what we need, and make sure everyone's got a decent share.
I think if you are able to open up the flow towards all levels of a company, right, in a way that represent a different system, I gave like TUI coming. All right, I could have sent out the link to TUI. I forgot about it. But TUI was saying, the Fijians are difficult for them to do a business. So all the people from India come over and they run businesses in Fiji, right? So Fijians don't know what to do, because they said people come in, their family, they just let them take the food out of the store, right? They're accounting for it. So I said, well, thinking differently, reverse the flow. So when people come into the store, the shopkeeper pays them to come in and pick up things.
Yeah.
And then of course the shopkeeper doesn't go and buy things. He goes and brings things from the distributor, and the distributor pays him to bring those goods. You carry that all the way back to who's distributing the money is the country, and the country is never collecting money back in tax. Doesn't need to now, other than to pay off the interest, right, on the debt. You can just rethink the whole system and turn it around and make it backwards, or make it forward.
Yeah. We go forward, but the system goes back. Just wind it all back what they've done.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to me that we do not replicate what they did.
Right.
With the CEOs and the ridiculous salaries. Essentially, all these CEOs of these top corporations, they're living like the elite, and we're paying for it. Expense sheets. The politicians are bad enough. $100 steaks. It's no better than the $30 one. I'm sorry, it's just not. And it's just all pretentious and false, and we have to quit that and get back to being real. When all that highfalutin stuff, and let's buy the $700 handbag, that's worth about $10, and it's not needed, and we have to step away from that, but my priority, I would like to see, is taking people out of poverty. We have enough in America for a start. 1 in 6 kids. That has to stop. There's no need for that levels of poverty, given the amount of money that is wasted in America, because the way the system is run, and they're all siphoning money from there and siphoning from there, and black budget there, and war there, and bases there, and let's go over there and steal their oil. Meanwhile, the American people pay, and still pay heavily at the gas prices.
Everything move the money from the hands of the people, so they can't save, always in debt. Increase the debt, increase the debt, increase the debt.
Yeah, well, that's why they brought in the lottery. People don't realize inflation is another tax. Yeah. As inflation goes up, you've just lost 1 or 2% more of your money. That's a tax.
And the inflation comes from the interest.
Yeah.
Right. You charge interest, and so that cost makes
they create it. Yeah.
Yeah. You need 10%. To have the money come from somewhere. Where does that come from? By devaluing the currency to bring in more for the loan. So a vicious cycle. So yeah, let's not do that anymore.
No, we have to change everything, and the key of moving forward is knowledge and teaching, because virtually every profession needs to unlearn their lives and go forward in a different way. It doesn't matter whether it's banking, it's medicine, school curriculum. That has to be torn up. We have to start that again, because we're not giving the children a chance. They're not being taught. They're being coached into how to pass a test. That's not learning.
Right.
That's not learning. So the whole school system has to get ripped up and start again. We have to come up with a curriculum that's interesting to the children, that's going to make them self-sufficient, or geared towards them being self-sufficient in later life. And we need to teach people how to farm again, how to grow their own food. Because at the moment, the system is we rely on them for food, we rely on them for water. That's not turned out too well for us.
No,
That
you're
has to be.
you're not even allowed to catch your own water from the rain. We'll have to tax you on that. Yeah, it came from the sky. What do you mean you're going to tax me on it?
Yeah, but these the likes of that, that's why they laugh at us, because they can throw rules in like that. And that guy, I think, was in Massachusetts, who got jailed for collecting rainwater. The people should have been up in arms over that.
Right.
We're not tolerating it, but everyone just laughs and ignores it. We have to stop that as well. Yeah. You can't carry on ignoring it, expecting them to run our lives the right way. They're not. Why should they? Well, they're the government. Well, it doesn't mean to say they have to run your whole life. They've run your whole life because we've allowed them to do so.
Yeah, and they do things to, again, create more fear. An example is I collect rainwater from the lands on the roof. I gather it up, save it, and then I filter it and put it back into the house. Right. Just because there's just no water up here on the mountain. Right. So that's the best way for me. Otherwise, I have to have it delivered in a truck. But I have a friend who she set up a place in Hawaii, and they're out in an area where she needed to collect her own rainwater, and but they made her put in like $5,000 worth of like equipment for filtering and removing the acidity from the water and all this kind of stuff because of acid rain. It's in Hawaii. There's no acid rain in Hawaii.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're dumping fluoride into it. Yeah,
and if you take it from the cities, you're not having fluoride water. That might be one of the things they made sure that they actually added to her water, including the removing of the acid. Add some fluoride. I have no idea, but $5,000 for it. I think I spent on the filtering system here about $300 and just removing sediment.
Yeah, it's that bureaucracy that's costing everything, and delaying time and wasting energy and getting people frustrated. I did a piece last night on flying, going on a plane. The things we've allowed them to do, just to get on the plane, it's like 3 hours of torture. This chick, you're a terrorist before you go in there.
Well, I don't know if you like that cartoon series South Park. They did this one skit where they were where the one guy who was a gay teacher, he ends up coming up with this device because he doesn't want to fly and go through TSA anymore, 3 hours at a time. So he gets in this mobile system, right, which that it's a big wheel that turns around, but when you get in it, you literally have to sit on a dildo, right, to get it to function and go around, right? So, but that pain is much better than going through TSA. That was the whole point, right? And people are zooming around at 400 miles an hour. Everyone's using this device, The punchline in the very end is that people say, "Well, why do you need this there?" I said, "Oh, you don't really need it there."
No, it's just to create annoyance.
Yeah, that's a great annoyance. Yeah.
Kim's been at meetings with when Marduk was here, and they're all laughing at us. They think such and such, they've brought out this law, and no one said, and they think it's absolutely hilarious. And this is something that we really need to look at. That's what thinking does properly.
Right.
How far our freedoms have been vanished because of a Patriot Act that was, about 700 pages long, that it was suddenly produced in a couple of days after 9/11.
Sure.
Right? Everyone produces 700-page documents in 2 days, don't they? Not. And we just went along with it.
Yeah, and Obamacare, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that was completely created out of. I think we have to vote on it to see what's in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you think the politicians are going to read it? Think again.
Yeah, all the signs are there. People just are pointed to them and say, listen, it's not a real system. It's a control system. The government is not what you think it is. It's just the puppet show in front of it. The commentators are all reading the script every day. Same thing on every channel. You don't know because you're only watching one channel because your habit is to watch one channel.
Yeah.
Unless you reach out to the alternative media and then everyone criticizes you and say, oh, you're listening to conspiracy theorists, right?
Yes, which was created by Langley. I'm
going with conspiracy analysts now.
Yeah, and that's why when I discuss things with people and they say conspiracy, and I go, but it's been on the TV. Hasn't it been on about the fraud and corruption and the different presidents and prime ministers have been arrested around the world? Hasn't it been on about the amount of paedophilia done by the church and politicians? That was all conspiracy, but it turns out it was fact, didn't it? There is no conspiracy anymore. It's all been out. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you pointing out what happened with ITNJ, International Tribunal on Natural Justice. Because I started following that. I was keyed into it, and I said, and Roger Bernard was on there giving his conversation about what he had experienced as a Dutch banker, and the level of evil that was there. So yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out because I did know about the previous group. I did hear about that, and then this new one came about. And it seemed much more organized, and I found it interesting to have all these religious leaders in this circle, right? I mean, I have no idea who they were, different.
Well, it's all the elites again. The guy next to him is a chief pastor or something anyway, a cardinal. Is he going to be objective when you're bringing up crimes about that's happened in the church? Well, clearly they've not, because they've covered up and spent, I think it's 4.3 billion in private settlements, which all came out of the people's bloody donation, because they won't dip into their money.
This is why they're losing. It's because we're now aware. I mean, you caught it, I heard it, I reacted. So this happens again and again and again. So we can just dig in, find out what the details are, start thinking, critical thinking, and then we work our way to the truth, and then we can literally solve the problem.
Essentially, ITNJ was getting people to present their information, which then puts them into the public sphere. But a lot of people are not like the Dutch banker. There's a lot of people who are private of that they have encountered ETs, or they've encountered criminality, and the monarch agent girls and the MK Ultra people and the super soldier. There's a lot who don't want to talk. And while they're not talking, they're off the radar. Of course, these groups, the likes of Simon Parkes and Bill Ryan, who did Avalon, they set up those groups to bring those people forward so they come to the attention of MI5, MI6, where they could potentially either be removed or
they
used.
Can information, right?
Yeah. And then the likes of ITNJ, it states in the manifesto that God has forgiven them their crimes. Well, that's not their decision to make. Like everyone else, those people the people that came forward and gave the speeches of what's happened to them, they have to see real justice the same as everybody else. If you or I had done those crimes, we'd be in jail faster than you can move. And yet these are essentially, yes, we're sorry, and that's the end of it. But no, we don't want whitewash courtrooms, and that's essentially what these intelligence agents, which is what Steele is, and the others are working for families. Sasha Stone, none of them got a legal background, and they're basically passing justice. But you're not going to get justice because they are stating in their manifesto they're going to exonerate the people who did the crimes.
Right. That's what they said. Yeah. They're already forgiven, right? We have to be, having a forgiving heart in this whole thing. And that was the thing is I said, well, I think, okay, let's forgive and put them on, an island somewhere. Maybe even off planet.
Well, I came up with the idea. Well, we have tried that. Nobody wants them. Trust me. And I mean that. Nobody wants them.
Maybe we need to open up the Phantom Zone through a CERN, right, and pop them into the other side.
That doesn't work as well as it used to anyway. That's not going to work the way they thought it was. That's another thing that didn't work. So one of the things I came up with, and I put in a show last year, we all know Clinton's done a vast range of crimes. Whether it should come out publicly of the skinning of that child's face remains to be seen. It may be too much for the general public who are not immersed in the dark arts as much as we are. I've nicknamed us the sin eaters because that basically people in the alt media have swallowed all the sins and all the crimes. And we've taken on too much because there's too many who won't look at it. The minute you talk about children being sexually abused or heaven forbid, the worst, the rituals and the organ harvest, and some people just go, I don't want to hear it. But we have had to take that on board, and the best thing that can happen for Hillary Clinton or Anne, because the original died, is she goes out on national TV and spits out her crimes. That's a sentence. Because all those people that admire her and think she's the queen bee and should be the president will hear it from the horse's mouth. And that then will erase some of her karma. We can't have volumes of people going on to the next lifetime with bundles of karma because it will play out again because they've got to correct it. And they're pushed away from society, like you said, on an island, the middle of nowhere, having gone on national TV and spat out all their crimes. It will have an effect for her. Yes, she will break down, as if you put Podesta or Pedosta, that's the real name.
I got it.
Or Mnuchin, for committing treason, or some of the others that have been involved in all kinds of others, Epstein and Richard Branson, because he's doing next to him on the next island. Put them in front of their own platform, which is the TV, which makes them famous because you're on TV, and make them spit out their crimes to the public. It would have a good effect for them, and some people will say, well, I don't care about them, but there is always consequences.
Yeah.
If there's an action, there's always a consequence for it.
Yeah, no, that definitely would cause a great transition in the people, because the people that were supporting her can then let go.
Yeah.
And they can move on themselves. So we'll be burdened that karma from people that are attacking. And otherwise,
I don't want to see jury TV. I don't think we should have public court drama with the bloody portal people, as I call them, mainstream media, are just going to blast it 24/7 and twist the narrative. And we don't want all that carnage like we had with O.J. Simpson and that girl in Florida allegedly killed the kid, Casey Anthony. 24/7 drama. We don't want or need that, because the people need to be focusing on not the past of who's done what, when, where, and why, is how we're going to go forward and rebuild this planet and its people. Let the military deal with that. But one of the proposals I put forward as part of the team is we have someone from the alt media in those courts, because it's the alt media who has exposed these people.
Right.
And so I think we should, the alt media as a collective, should have representatives in those military private courts. And then certain ones of them, likes of Hillary, Cheney even, Bush Jr., Rumsfeld, are made to go on national TV and read out their crimes to the public. I think that's different. That's thinking different. And it's a change, because these courtrooms, it's all phony and more theatre. The last thing Americans want, or any other country for that matter, is more theatre. Most of our lives is theatre. Politics is theatre. It's all stage managed.
We're seeing a current play out in this military tribunals. We have I see two sides of it, and they already start squaring off. David Zubrick versus Seavine, right? And now they're back and forth. They're poking at each other, and one is claiming the other is not real, and the other is claiming, "Oh, well, you're being controlled by the cabal." This is the latest story, so it's more theater.
Yeah, and what people it's an important thing to statement to make, is these people are victims also. When you break it down, if anyone's listened or read the Svarli material of what happens to the children of the elite families, they're tortured from 0 to 6 to get in the program. No compassion, no empathy, and that's how they can just dismiss people and get rid of people. There's nothing there.
They're trained not to care, not to.
Yeah, and these are being victims.
Groups so that they don't have their own children with them.
Yeah, and it's all kept in house, and there's all kinds of weird sexual encounters of incest to keep it in the bloodline family and all that nonsense. It's not the way to live. Yes, they might have external wealth and the appearance of fame. Fame is an illusion as well. It's a created program. It's just marketing, and so we have to find a space in our hearts to forgive on that level, because they've been lied to more than we have. They've been abused in many ways more than we have. As hard as that may sound to some of the listeners, when you know the backstory that I do, I've been with some of these elite children. They got tortured badly to accept the program. I mentioned one case of a child under 2, and this went on at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, where they drowned that child and then brought him back to life, and drowned it again and brought it back to life, to force that program on that child. That was a Rothschild, one of the Rothschilds. If you came in to this world with all your memories as an adult, I wonder how many being born would say they would go through that torture program to have all the houses and the wealth that the Rothschilds have, or would they say, no, I'm not doing that, if they had a choice? because all wealth comes like magic. It comes at a price, and they pay a heavy price. They pay a heavier price than most of us are prepared to look at or accept. And they do have to pay for their crimes, but not in the way that perhaps a lot of people are wanting. Some people want to lynch them, and some people want them executed and all that. That's going down to their level. Again, if we're going to be different from them, we have to do everything in a different way.
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good suggestion for them to, confess in front of video, express everything, even if they don't regret it, even if they're not, for them just to come about and admit to the population of the world, it would cause a very big, awakening to happen very quickly. Right now, we're experiencing a very slow awakening. It's almost excruciatingly slow, but it is happening.
But it only takes, I'll use Hillary Clinton, it only takes her as an example.
Yeah.
Suddenly, everyone, because it's on the TV, that means it's real to a lot of people, as you know. There you have it. All the conspiracies all disappear. Oh my God, Billy was right. Dan was right. Tank was right. He's been telling us about this stuff for years. They were right. It changes, and then you bring a few more on, the bigger names, and it ends. Then people realize what's really, they'll get a slither of what we know of what's really been going on. It changes everything. It would change everything, because the TV is running people's lives. Essentially, the TV is the teacher.
It's the programmer.
Yeah, it's the programmer. That's why it's called the program.
So it's called program.
Yeah, it's all there in the words. And so everything on that TV is gospel to far too many people in the Western world anyway. It's got, why would they lie? Nobody asks, why wouldn't they? They don't ask those questions back. Well, no, you can't do that. You can't pull a false flag off in Sandy Hook. Too many people will be involved. But then you find out that whole region is all elite families, and they're all in on it.
Yep.
It's so easy to do because all you have to do is present it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like the classic is 9/11. Jet fuel brought 2 towers down. No.
And then building 7 20 later. Right?
I remember arguing over this because I said on the day that's been brought down, and everyone rolled their eyes and go, "Where he is with his conspiracies again." So I said, "Let's assume it went on fire." I said, ignoring the fact that jet fuel burns at 1,600 and steel is over 2,000, but we'll ignore that. It's magic jet fuel that increases its temperature. I said, so the floors 76 and say 75 and 78 and 79 are on fire. What happens next? Well, it collapses. No, it doesn't collapse. The 4 floors that have burned collapses, and the top 2. Remember, the previous 74 floors were not on fire.
Right.
So how can all the steel just melt? Oh, I never thought of it that way. Well, it collapsed was the weight. Yeah. And so what would happen is it would concertina. So a few floors would drop. And it's only till you got to the bottom 30 floors that then you've got 60 or 70 floors pressing that the whole thing would collapse. But it would go, and then it would burn a bit more, and then it would go down again. It fell in 9 seconds.
Pulled it up before. It had all that weight above it. The weight didn't change.
There was no weight. That's the point.
Yeah.
There was no weight, because if you dropped a ball from the top of the Twin Towers, it would take 9 seconds to drop. Why? Because it had no weight. There's no resistance. So why did the buildings collapse in 9 seconds? Because it had no resistance.
Right, no resistance. Yes.
You know? So who rigged the buildings?
Well, we know.
Yes, we know.
We know from the very beginning. You know, when that first happened, I literally woke up out of a dead sleep and turned on the TV. Just 5 minutes before the first one hit the building.
I was in the UK at the time.
And then the second one, I said, "This is not." When I saw the Pentagon get hit, I said, "Where's the plane? Where's the plane?"
It's the magic plane and the magic bullet. And then the magic fire in California. That doesn't burn trees but burns brick. It doesn't burn the lawn, which is burns at 600 degrees, but it's untouched, even though the fire was 1800. And they think we're all stupid because they've got away with it for so long. You see, and this is what's a joy to me, who's been in it for so long, seeing people now. Hang on a minute, let's look at this.
Yeah,
I love it when people do that. Let's look at it rationally. Ignore the noise, because that's all you're going to get, noise. And step out of the forest. And then, instead of looking at a few trees, you're looking at the whole forest and the whole picture. And that's the key going forward. And that's why I like, whilst I'm not too convinced Q is the be all and end all it's made out to be, it may well be another Langley program. But the point is, it's backfired, because suddenly the people are looking at incidents and going, hang on a minute, this doesn't make sense. Let's break it down.
I do know that there's an AI involved. That I'm sure. Predictive programming or algorithms, predictive algorithms, definitely involved. So these very advanced puzzles, yeah. But I do take the side of it being the for the good purpose of waking up the people as a new channel for media.
Yeah, if it is a program, then it's failed, and I love not more than programs failing, because it's the ripple in the pond. The more that go down, suddenly that ripple becomes a tsunami, and that applies to the people. You often hear people. One of the most annoying things I ever hear is people say, "What can we do? It's little me. I can't do anything." You can do everything.
Well, I think that if we see, we have to see everything come out. We have to not have anything hidden. Everything has to be disclosed, so we can level everything and go forward, right? And know where we're, and so everyone will get on the same page at least. If like you said, Hillary was to admit what's going on. And I guess the word is that Bush may be coming out to admit on camera everything that has happened by his father, and
I would sooner his father was on that screen.
Yeah,
out of the two, because his father was heinous beyond satanic. That man.
Well, and we see the his when Bush Jr. was in the grade school, right, and they're reading the words, right, and he's there, and they come and whisper, we're under attack. He knew what it meant. That's why he was frozen.
Yeah, of course he knew, because he said, "I've just," before he went into that classroom, he's that stupid. That's why I call him Idiot Bush and Elder Bush. He, before he went into that classroom, said, "I've just watched the first plane hit the tower," but it didn't come out until much later in the day. That video of the French photographer who was there deliberately, so he couldn't have seen it. If he did see it, he knew it was taking place. So he slipped up.
Yeah.
And that's why he sat there, because they didn't want him opening his mouth. This is why you've got Alexandra Cortez, because she can speak, because Pelosi can't. You know, Rumsfeld used to trip over his words. That's why Cheney took over. Cheney ran the American government, not Bush.
You saw the Bush senior funeral, right? And all the envelopes passing around and all this. But if you watch Cheney during that, I mean, he was like casting spells or something while he's sitting there right at the camera. He's like, he's focused right in on viewing what's going on. You know, why are all these cameras right in front of us? Maybe
why we call him Darth Vader.
Yeah. Well, I put him in the evil emperor spot, but yeah,
the unholy four.
Yeah,
he was one of them. Bush Senior, Kissinger. You know,
Soros.
Maybe not as much. No. Lower level. You know, but there's a movie out. Kim's been to see it. She asked me, did I want to go? And quite honest, I don't like looking at Cheney's face, to be quite honest. You know, but it's called Vice, and it's all about Dick Cheney. It's an expose of Dick Cheney, actually. So if you get a chance to watch it, it tells you Vice. It's called. Right. It tells you who was running the White House when Bush Jr. was in it, because it wasn't him. You know, that most days he can hardly stand up. He's a bad alcoholic. Bush Jr. And so Cheney took over. Of course, Cheney was also the Black Dragon leader at the time as well, which really runs the government. You know, people talk about the deep state. It's more to do with the dragon groups that are the deep state. Black and gold and blue. The blue dragon group runs the UK, and Hillary Clinton's the front of that blue dragon group.
Okay. She's the blue dragon.
Yeah.
And the red dragon is
a Russian. Not the clown on the internet. The fake ambassador.
Okay.
No. The real red dragon is a Russian.
I know who you mean. Yeah. And then, what about the green dragon? I put out colors here, right? Because it's not exactly colors are real.
The main three, the darkest three, and all were run by the Off-World Group originally. Some still are. Is the blue, green, and black. They're the ones who wear the rings. They're the main three. Well, black is split. You've got a North American Black Dragon group, which is headed by Pelosi got fired. Prince tried to get back in, and he got pushed away. I think it may have even be Cheney again now, because they're that desperate it's fallen apart. And then you've got the Black Dragon in China, which is run by the Rothschilds. Prince was involved in that, and he's because we exposed him on our show of what he was doing in China with the setting up the Muslim training camps. We notified President Xi, and he cancelled it. So Mr. Prince is not happy with us, and he sent some goons to try and take us out. That didn't turn out too well for them. But they're your deep state, the dragon groups. And the white dragon is not Benjamin Fulford. Sorry. Yeah. It's just not.
No, I knew that he was just the White Dragon Society, right? That he's just a group of people, right?
That was three people, some Japanese guy, Benjamin Fulford, and Neil Keenan.
Ah,
That was the original White Dragon Society, the three of them, and there was no ninjas. That was all a ruse.
Okay.
And that came out of Neil Keenan's mouth. He said it's all a ruse. But Fulford has contacts in the Rogue Pentagon elements, and also the P2 Lodge, which is the Freemasons in the Vatican. Who essentially, that's where the control structure, the Pope at the front is another puppet. The real power is the grey and the black Pope. They run the Vatican, not Francis. That's just.
He's been removed of power. Internally,
probably because he said, we spoke to him twice in November, and he was panicking because, like everyone else, he wanted money because none of the staff, the bishops and cardinals, had been paid, but they're all waiting for the RV. And they'll all be 6 foot under before the RV ever comes out, multiple lifetimes. So,
did Kim send the Pope money?
He said that he had to wait. Now, one of the things, I don't know whether she sent money on or what, just to pay the staff. It wasn't a large amount. I don't think she sent it in the end. But one of the conditions was that he had to clean house. Not just brush it under the carpet, clean house. And that's why he started putting names forward, like the Australian guy, the Cardinal.
Right.
And he was pushing on that. And then the big boys came in and shut him down. They don't want it out. But the Pope started getting people put forward and arrested because that was the condition, that we would fund the church people and their wages only, providing they cleaned house properly, not hid it behind the scenes. Justice in the public, which he agreed to.
So who runs the Swiss Guard?
Rothschilds.
What I thought. So basically, the army is already encamped.
So you got the Swiss Guards that's run by the Rothschilds. The US military is run by the Rothschilds, and NATO is Rothschild's private army.
So if Rothschilds are stepping down, are they stepping down out of just banking or the whole thing? What do you think?
I think they'll stay in banking, but not for very long. Well, technically they are the holders of a lot of the banks. It's going to take time for those, even if the funds come out, because they've got so many control of so many banks, they're going to collect some of the trust money. We can't get around that because they, with this harvesting and shunting it all to the smaller and smaller group, they do control a lot, which is why, I did that business plan on the show about, you create companies, for argument's sake, the People's Club, we fund 5 or 6 companies to operate in the People's Club way and all trade between each other, keep outside away, and as the, share the funds together, share the resources together as much to keep the cost down and make sure the lower staff get far more pay than currently, and that the higher staff can be at a more reasonable level. And then once you get to 5 or 6 and they're all interacting, you're creating a brand, which is what they do, but we've created a brand where everyone's sharing. So the companies would all be cooperatives. So the lower end staff has as much say as the top end staff. So everyone then is pulling for the company because the profits would go into bonuses and it all would be shared equally. So it then pushes people into taking into the feel like they've got an interest in that company instead of just turning up, clocking in, do as little as possible and then clock off. Everyone's bored. They've got no incentive. You don't gain incentive earning $9 and $10 an hour. Why should you care? You can go and get another job for $9, $10 an hour if that company goes bust. Well, if that's your life and lifestyle, and the idea is to get people starting with THI into jobs that they would actually like to do, not because they have to, jobs they really want to do for the rest of their lives. Not, oh my God, it's Monday again and the counting down the days till Friday. When you get a job like what I'm doing now, days don't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not 9 to 5. I actually work more hours than 9 to 5, way more hours.
I can tell you, I need a vacation.
Yeah. Yes, I need a vacation. Kim needs a vacation more than me. Well, we went shopping together. I said, "There's your vacation."
Yeah, where you can find it.
I took us shopping. I think it was last week. I said, "You've had your vacation now. You went close to the boundary, so there's your vacation." So we have a good laugh as well. You've got to with all this stuff, and she's got a good sense of humor as much as I have. So.
Well, we were just kind of talking. It reminded me of something. Is like, and I was, I'd seen in my business career the financial system literally take the founders of those companies who had the idea, went and created something, but they needed money to make it go to that next level.
Yeah, that's when the fishing line technique comes in.
Yeah,
they roll you in, and then the hook at the end.
That will eventually move them out of power. They may have shares, they may be rich, but they have no power in what they set up. And then the money system takes over, and it's all about how do they change this model to make money, right? And that's all it's about. And they set aside any of the good goals that may have been there. I mean, I always like to use what's the name? I forgot the ice cream. Was it Tom and Jerry? No, Tom.
Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's. Yeah. Great ice cream in the beginning. I love that ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Cherries Garcia. I used to love that Cherries Garcia. You'd have the giant Bing cherries in it, right?
Yeah.
Half cherry or 3/4 of a cherry. I was waiting to find the whole cherry. I never found the whole, but it was always, big chunks of cherries in the whole thing. But now, you look through it, you might not even see a remnant of a cherry. Right?
No, it's just cherry flavored.
Just cherry flavored.
They're just telling you it's cherry flavored.
But and that's it. That model is what I know that they were moved out because they needed money, and if there was a business model where the founder always had control, it didn't matter if who came in and had what shares, and the founder may have less money coming to him, but he still always has the control over it. That business model would be there. I try to design one, for setting up a company. And I even looked at what Microsoft had done, right, and how Bill Gates has set it up. I talked with my attorney friend there, and he says, "Oh, you can't do this anymore. They don't allow this."
No, that's because of the Non-Compete Act, 1975. You're not allowed to compete with the higher companies.
Oh.
Yeah. They brought in 1975 the Non-Compete Act.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
That then tells you, when you know the background now of the harvesting, they're crushing the lower end. And so it all goes on to the next stage. Just going up the steps of the pyramid.
Too big to fail.
Yeah. Well, those won't fail, but the other ones did.
Everything's moving up to them.
The sheer concept of it is a company the size of JP Morgan is being bailed out. And whilst it's being bailed out, it's buying up all the smaller banks.
Right.
You know, people don't stop and think about that. Here's a company that is bankrupt, that is being bailed out by the people. And whilst they're being bailed out, they're buying up all the small banks with the bailout money.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, we have to think more. I know there was some people who complained of it, but not enough complained.
Yeah, and it didn't matter though, the complaints, really, because it was muted. Now we have the understanding that we have these channels. That's why they're trying to censor the channels.
You know, I wish one day that doesn't matter which show you're on or who you follow, all the alt media get together and we pick themes. You know, if you don't like, for argument's sake, Wells the Fargo Bank, if every American pulled their money out of Wells the Fargo, it goes away. You know, banks, you know, people don't think banks don't have money. They have our money. It's not theirs. They think it is. but we have the power. Their company only exists. Wells the Fargo only exists because we put our money in there. But if we take our money out, they've got nothing left.
Right. So
that's what I say.
They'll need a government bailout.
Yeah, the illusion of power, because they have nothing. Because if we take it away, like, you know, the most damaging thing at the moment is Amazon. Why? Because they're claiming, you know, money is a successful economy. Money has to change hands 7 times. But they're taking 5 of them. They're manufacturing with their own staff. They're not farming it out, so somebody else gets part of the money. They've got their own warehouses, they've got their own truckers, and they've got their own computers. So they're taking 5 stages of the money. So there's none left for anybody else.
The velocity of money is a fascinating thing, because, you know, you can use the same money to pay off several things along the way. It just keeps going around in a circle.
Yeah.
And the more it go back to the bank, the more the wealth is in the people's hands.
Yeah.
To buy things.
You know, and that's what we've got to stop and think. You know, people worried that the high street shops are going, but then they'll go and pick the phone up and go and order off Amazon. You know, you're costing yourself, and one of the biggest problems with society is convenience. Everything's convenience, but those convenience things are costing us an awful lot on all levels of life in society. We won't read a mortgage document. We won't read the small print on a credit card because it's convenient to just sign it. You know, you sign up for the loan. We won't search for the better deal. No, it's too convenient. I'll sign it. Well, if you've done a bit of research, you know, but it's that convenience, and Amazon plays into that. Yeah. Oh, I can't be bothered driving to the town centre. I'll just pick up a phone, but that's just cost thousands of people jobs because of that convenience, because you won't take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes going into the town.
Yeah, I recall when doing business, first startup businesses and things, I started using Staples, right, to get all the business supplies, right, and not the small mom and pop shops, right, because in the mom and pop shops it was, you know, twice the money, right. But now all the mom and pop shops are gone, and if you go to Staples, it's 5 to 10 times higher.
Yeah, they just knock out the competition, so you pay more in the long run, and that's part of the illusion. You know, it's a sale. I worked for a high store over Christmas when I was in the UK, and the Christmas sale, the Boxing Day sale, the New Year's Day sale, and I changed the prices 7 times between December the 21st and January the 2nd. It went up 40% just before the sale started, and then they dropped 30% off. And I'm going, that's 10% dearer. Shut up. Well, no, that's cheating the public. And that's but people don't pay attention, you see. What was that cost the week before?
Yeah, it's just the program.
They see sale. Oh, that's 30% off. Well, actually, no, it's 10% higher than it was last week. You just didn't notice.
Yeah.
And that's what they do.
Yeah. This is shows where like Amazon is taking over every aspect of this, but there's obviously more to Amazon than just a business. There's some definitely.
They're basically running the communities down. That's what Amazon is. It's a community destroyer. Even the big Walmarts are closing down. They're going into the neighborhood markets or something similar, it's called. And Walmart, the reason they're going to neighborhood markets is because the only thing they're selling is food.
Right.
All the rest is not selling. It's sitting there on shelves. And if you go into a Walmart now, you'll see rows of empty shelves, or all the goods spread out to make it look like the shelf's full. When in reality, when you compact it all in, the shelves are empty. No one's buying anything apart from what you've got to buy, which is food. That's why they're downsizing. Well, it's ruining the community. That's what Amazon's doing. It's ruining the community.
Yeah, but it's against the Patriot Act to grow your own food.
Yeah. Well, again, the people should never have tolerated that.
Right.
En masse. But then convenience, you see. No, I can go and buy it out of a tin.
Yeah.
Convenience. Why should I bother growing? Well, actually, you're earthing yourself by growing. I'm not a gardener, so I shouldn't be saying this. But, there's a lot of people who like it because they're connected with Mother Earth and they're earthing and grounding. And there's something about growing something yourself. Now, for men, growing plants, because we can't grow children. There's a kind of a theme to that. Females can grow children. They know how to nurture something, and it grows inside and it comes out as a child. But we can't do that. But gardening, similar. We nurture plant things and it grows and you end up eating it, which is a bit cannibalistic. But that's something that we should all learn, because heaven forbid any disaster happens in the Western world and the food supply shuts down. What's going to happen?
Yeah, I've been telling my daughter, foodstuffs. Just save a little bit. Buy, some beans and rice and stick in there, big, 20-pound sack. Just something. Water. Keep water.
Yeah. But what happens when that runs out? And these are the things an adult species should be thinking about in terms of progression. If the electric grid goes down and there's an incident and a fire and the only electrician dies, we're not having any electric for a long time, are we? And these are the types of things, because we're not learning these trades. We're not learning how to grow our own food or how to make fire. You get some of these series, how to survive and how to make fire. But most of us, myself included, we're caught out in the middle of the desert, haven't got a clue how survival instincts, getting back to nature. It's all being provided for us, but it's not helping us. that convenience aspect is killing us because we're not learning to fend for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because when you can't fend for yourselves, you have a totalitarian fascist government looking after you instead.
One or the other.
Yeah.
I think maybe we could come with a happy medium. But we got to
Yeah.
keep. Well, you know, we're close to 4 hours on the broadcast.
Yes, I just noticed that. Perhaps we should wrap it up now.
I like again. Thank you for joining. It's wonderful to have you on. I'm glad I was able to speak to you this time.
Yeah. Yes, it's good.
And I thank you for all your efforts that you've been doing, and thank Kim as well for everything.
Will do.
And anytime you'd like, please come on back and we can talk again. We've got a lot that seems to be rolling by here. So, and I'm going to ask everyone to please share the link, pass this on, because we need to get the word out. Just do it, even if you've done it before. Do it again.
Yeah.
All right. And thanks, Tank.
Yes, thanks, Tank.
Now he got the treatment, from the clowns. Right? All right. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Stan. Bye now. Bye, everyone.